Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the afternoon portion of the Marion County Board of County Commissioners meeting on May the 21st, 2019. And if you'll all stand with me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, if you'll go ahead and call roll.
Yes, Chairman Stone.
Here.
Vice Chairman Moore.
Here.
Commissioner Bryant. Commissioner Gold.
Here.
Alec.
Here.
We are reconvening a little bit earlier today to go over our United States Census, the 2020 Census. And with us this afternoon to present is Chana Lloyd. And so, Chana, I am going to give you the floor at this point.
Thank you. I thank you for having us back. We spoke previously about the census and what's new and what's changing. And I'm going to go a little bit more in depth about the complete count committees, which is how we actually reach out to our residents. The goal of the 2020 census is to count everyone once and in the right place. Only once and in the right place. As I mentioned, the census this time for the first time is going to be online, so we do want to communicate that. We understand that that's going to present some challenges for some, so we want to make sure that we're addressing that when we talk about our complete count committee. Our complete count committee is the best way that we found to outreach to the residents of any geographic area or that we're working with. Complete count committees are a group of trusted voices from within the region in which we're working. We found that it's best that people from the area communicate to the residents of that area because they understand the geographic area, the demographic that they're going to be working with. And this talks more about how it really is our core strategy. We form them at the state level, the county, as well as the city level. What is the structure of a complete count committee? The highest elected officials appoint a chairperson of the complete count committee. From there, we do have sub-chairs that we're going to sub-chair our smaller subcommittees. We want to be sure that our chairperson is committed, knowledgeable, and active in the community. They are the driving force of your complete count committee. They're going to make sure that every subcommittee is on task and that it's moving forward. So you want to have someone that's impassioned about this project because it's really important to our members of the community here. We also want to select subcommittee chairs who are going to drive those individual subcommittees, and I'll talk more about what those will do later. And this is a little more information. Complete count committees are very important because they're allowed to tailor the message. We provide all the support and all of the information, marketing that they will need. They then can take it and tailor it to the actual audience that they're looking for. So if a subcommittee deals with faith-based or education, they can tailor that message that might be a little bit different than if they're dealing with a unique population or another particular subcommittee. And these are some examples that we have: government, education, faith-based, media, community-based organizations, recruiting, service providers, housing, senior citizens. These are some of our suggestions. We find that they work. We also recommend any unique population that is specific to the indigenous area that you have a subcommittee that addresses that. And this talks a little bit more about our specific subcommittees. On the local government subcommittee, sometimes if the cities are kind of work with the county, we'll have representatives from the city sit on that so that way they're a part of it and they understand what's happening as we start an outreach plan. Education, we typically look for this because students and older and younger students are very good messengers when it comes to the census. They're very engaged. So we look to have information in the schools. We'll also engage with the universities as well. Faith-based is another subcommittee that is very active. Typically, people look to the faith-based community within their communities and the leaders in that area. So they will get together and come up with an outreach plan that's based on their ministerial activities and other things that they're doing in their communities. Media is going to really be more for getting the message out. Does the county want to have a web page? Does the complete count committee want to have its own web page? Are we posting on social media? Are all the subcommittees getting the information that they need to post on their social media and their internet and outreach platforms. So that's typically the role of the media subcommittee. Small businesses, these can be neighborhood businesses, franchise. They typically are conduits. When we are not working with the government, we form partnerships within the community, and a lot of times they can donate in kind or provide other services to the subcommittee to help them get their mission completed. Recruitment. Again, as I spoke about last time I was here, recruiting is a big part of this. We hire from the regions in which people will be working. So when we're here, we're going to be hiring people from Marion County to work in Marion County because they're familiar with the geographical area as well as the demographic of the citizens that reside here. This is a timeline to give you an idea of how a complete count committee and what they'd be doing. Right now, we start in the education phase. We educate all of our complete count committee members so that way as they're moving forward, they all have the same information going forward about the census, what the mission is, and the goals. We then move into the awareness phase. Awareness is where we're actually going to be reaching out to our residents and making sure that they know what's coming. They know there's a postcard coming. They know that response is going to be online. They know what questions by then will be on the census form. So we want them to be very aware and prepared to answer the census. Next is going to be the motivation phase. This is a phase where we're like, hey, you have your mailer, fill it out. Go ahead and go online and let's get the census done. We'll move into the reminder phase. April 1 is Census Day, so that's typically the soft deadline by which we hope everyone responds. If they do not respond at that point, there is an enumerator that comes out and will knock on your door and say, hi, you didn't fill it out, please respond. So we want our complete count committee to be very active because they're going to say to the community, if you don't fill it out, there is going to be a census worker coming. This is their identifying marks. Please be aware that this is happening. We then move into the thank you phase. This is where we thank our partners, our community partners. The Complete Count Committee gives the census a report on what they thought worked, what they found, what their challenges were, where their opportunities lie, which help us then, we incorporate that into the next decennial census. So that part is very important as well. These are some education steps, and these talk a little bit more about what I was talking about, where we are going to educate. The CCC is going to hold regular meetings, so that way they know what they're doing, they're moving towards their goals, what activities that particular subcommittee wants to engage the community in. So we want to be sure that that's happening. They're also going to start whatever their activities are that they've planned, that they've decided to do, they're going to start that as well. This is some contact information. We here as your, there was one more slide that was supposed to be there, I apologize. The partnership specialists, our role is to support your complete count committee. We're here to provide educational resources, marketing resources. Whatever it is that the complete count committee needs, we're here to be a resource to support them. But it is driven by the people on your complete count committee. That's why it's really important to have people that are very passionate about the project and reaching our members here in the community because they're going to drive this. Can I answer questions about the Complete Count Committee?
So, Board, I'll give you a moment. The reason that we brought Ms. Lloyd in to review this with us is it's a big deal. None of us were here back in 2010. I don't know, maybe Commissioner Zalek? Yeah, I was going to say. The commission, and Chris Risen was a participant, he had a large role with our county.
We didn't do anything what we are hearing today. We didn't do it that way. I mean, it was not done in that same manner in 2010.
And our results of that were not very well.
Correct.
Either. We had a less than average response rate.
It's less than 75, correct. The average was 72, and it was a little below that. So we're looking to increase that. That's what our goal is, to go up by about 2 or 3 percentage points.
So there's not funds that are coming down to assist us with this. It's really going to be a grassroots effort. And there are some other counties that they've started, and they're doing some things right now that really I'm just bringing this to the board to see how do we want to work with this. It's been suggested, as Ms. Lloyd stated, that we can start with a chair and then get these sub-chairs in place.
Correct.
I'd be happy to serve in that role with the outreach efforts to get the subcommittees together. But certainly want to hear from you all, if you all have some other thoughts or would like to play a large role with this as well. I think we're really gonna need to talk it up in the community anytime we're out and about. And, I don't know, Mr. Boyonis, do you have anything you want to add as well?
Only one question.
Sure.
Can the chair of the subcommittee be a member of the committee, of the
Yes.
complete count committee? Okay.
As a body, it's called the Complete Count Committee, but the breakdown is really that you have a chair that's coordinating and leading the efforts. You then have the chairs of the subcommittees and the subcommittees themselves, but the whole thing is considered the Complete Count Committee, so you're still a member.
The reason I ask this, because
Yeah.
probably what you all want to do, maybe give me some names of people in the community who you want to be on this complete count committee. We will reach out to them. They need to be willing to commit their time and be passionate about this project. Then maybe that's how the overall committee can be put together, and members of that committee, we will start directing them to create the subcommittees. So it needs a lot of effort to encompass a big spectrum of the whole community to be involved.
So if you all are in agreement, we'll take the lead on getting those names, and it could very well be based on those names that we may define a chair out of those names at that point in time. But at least somebody needs to step forward at this moment to try to get us up and running on this. And then we'll certainly keep you all abreast of it as we go forward.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes,
On there.
Commissioner Gold?
No, and I completely agree. I just didn't want to offer your name because I know you're doing so many other things, but I think it would be better for you to do it. For example, if we use their CEP partnerships to
Exactly.
do and I think probably even on the education, it probably wouldn't even hurt to go into the schools.
Correct.
And also the undergraduate, the college and everything like that, because even if we get to the children and then they tell mom and dad, hey, this is what's going on, because that might be the only way to find it. But what I was going to ask is, can we use our resources with our media and our advertising to put it out through social media and through
Yeah.
all the other venues?
I believe we can, and if you all are interested, probably we can have a special page just for this project as part of our website
Yeah, definitely.
to
This is-
continue updating the community on what's going on.
I think it's too important to all of us not to.
Agreed.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Zat?
So obviously, the Constitution allows the count of every 10 years, and
Yes.
The online application or the online process,
Mm-hmm.
how are you guys envisioning that's going to, how is that going to work?
For response, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
So if I'm a citizen,
Yes.
we want to talk to citizens about saying, hey, fill out this form, or how do we know we can trust an email that is sent to, because people are sensitive about their information, right?
Absolutely.
I know there's some information in here that talk about that.
Yes.
If you could talk about the security that will be
Absolutely.
happening, and then also what information is not shared with other parts of the government, what is
Absolutely.
private, what is not, what are the statutes
Sure.
and.
I'll back it up. Let me start by saying all of Census data is protected by Title 13, which
Okay.
states that we don't share it with any other governmental agency. It's shared at an aggregate level on a track. A census track is probably about 4 to 5 approximate city blocks. So the information is saying this track has X amount of people. No individual data is given. It's not reported on Shauna Lloyd at 123 Main Street. That does not happen. The data is also sealed for 72 years, so by the time it gets out, we're either not here or we don't care. So that also is a secondary protection as well. We never ask for Social Security. We never ask for banking information, PIN information. We never ask you to make a donation. We never ask for anything on behalf of a political party. So we never ask for any sensitive data at all when we are coming out and when we're talking to you. Now, regarding response, the way it's going to work is in the spring, you're going to receive almost like a postcard mailer that says, hi, the census is coming. Then you'll receive another one that says, hi, please respond to the census using this code. That code is tagged to your address. So when you go online, it's very similar to any other promo code. You're going to enter that in line, and it's going to realize that you're asking for that address. You're then going to complete. If there's any duplicates, they are cross-referenced. Any large anomalies also are cross-referenced because they have census data from 2010. So anything that seems out of the ordinary, they actually send someone out to verify. So that's also why the Complete Count Committee is really important, because if I say, hi, there's someone knocking at your door, you have no idea who I am. If Madam Chair or yourself as a commissioner says, hello, hi guys, listen, this is what to expect, they're prepared for it, they're listening, and they're engaged. So that's why it's really important to have that central body where people can go to and get that information.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And that's a lot better too, because, you know, people are always told, especially with identity theft,
Right.
you don't put any sensitive information.
Correct.
If that email or text message is coming into you,
Yes.
then it's possibly a scam.
Right.
Right? So this is actually sending you a number, and then you're going
Yes.
online to
That
fulfill
is
that.
correct. And there is going to be an established website that will be heavily communicated. The other thing that you can do, our secondary response method, is a 1-800 number. So if you do
Oh, so
feel
you can do it,
uncomfortable, you can call the 1-800 number and they can complete the form with you over the phone. Or if you just want to talk to them while you're walking through completing it, you can do that as well.
I was gonna ask that, because there are some
Yeah.
people, you know.
Absolutely. And in
you
some
know.
of our rural areas, the telephone will probably be typically their response
Okay.
method if they don't have access to internet. We
Sure.
are working with libraries, and this is part of what we would introduce at the Complete Count Committees. We want our libraries, we're working with them so that way they know people may be coming in to complete their census forms, because that's a resource that people can use as well.
Okay,
Definitely.
thank you, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. And so, Ms. Lloyd, thinking about all the various steps involved with this and educating the public, are there going to be some scripts available each step along the way?
Yes. So once the Complete Count Committee is formed and we come in and we do an actual training, we train the trainer. So that way, everyone on the Complete Count Committee is on the same page as you, the county, and everyone else. Because we want them to be armed with the information, so that way when they're sharing it, they're sharing correct information. We also come in and still do workshops. If the Complete Count Committee says, hey, the school district would like a workshop, or this organization, our subcommittee is putting together an open house and we want you to do a workshop, we still come in and do that. We still provide all of your talking points. We're going to provide all the information, the marketing. So we're always here with you through the process.
Okay. It's going to require a heavy lift from us all across the entire county, actually. So, Mr. Boyanis, am I missing anything? Do we need to put maybe some timelines on when
Yep.
to get names?
Probably by the next meeting, if you all would think about it and share with me names you suggest that will make good sense to be on the committee, then we will start talking to those people and see if they have time to do it, and if they are interested, then I'll get with you, and at some time in the future, in the very near future, we will have to convene that committee together and
Correct.
bring you back to
Yes.
probably give us
I do a
presentation.
Complete Count Committee training for you.
And we can certainly invite every one of us to be a part of that, just so that we all hear that message as we are out in the community.
Absolutely.
There is no limit on the number of people who could be
Right.
on the committee.
The more the better.
Definitely,
actually.
because those are going to you'll become the faces. You'll be surprised. They say in marketing, it takes about 6 to 7 touch points before someone becomes familiar with a concept or idea. So you're going to be surprised how people, the first couple of times they don't, but eventually the Complete Count Committee and yourselves as representatives, people will start asking you questions randomly about the census. And so we always want to make sure that everyone has the same information. Because when I'm working here in Marion, or this morning I was in Pasco, or if I'm in Seminole, it's the same message across the board. We want the information to be consistent. It's just who's getting the message and who they're getting it from may be different, but the messaging is always consistent.
Very good. All right, any other questions or comments from the board? Well, Ms. Lloyd, we appreciate you driving very quickly to get across the state to be with us for this 1:30 presentation. We look forward to working with you and to a much better results for our 2020 census.
Yes, I look forward to working with you guys, and thank you for allowing me to come a little later.
All right.
I
Well,
appreciate
we
it.
wish you a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you, you too.
And that will conclude the 2020 census presentation. We will be in recess until approximately 2 p.m., which we will then pick up our planning and zoning for the afternoon. Thank you.
176 for next year.
No, Wednesday will be 56 months, you know, just really like, yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the afternoon portion of the Marion County Board of County Commissioners meeting. This is our zoning portion of the meeting. Today is May the 21st, 2019. Please stand with me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I must say, it's always so nice when we have a lot in our audience when we say the pledge. It really is very patriotic, so thank you all for joining in on that. Madam Clerk, if we could please start with roll call.
Chairman Stone,
Here?
Vice Chairman Moore,
Here.
Commissioner Bryant,
Here.
Commissioner Gold,
Here.
Commissioner Zalek.
Here.
Very good. To get us started, before we do proof of publication, let me just ask everyone if you would please silence any electronic device that you may have. This way, our business meeting will not be interrupted with any sort of telephone rings. If you do need to have a conversation with anyone in the audience as well as on any device, I'm going to ask that you please take it out into the foyer. You'll still be able to hear what's going on in the meeting, and we won't be able to participate in your conversation. So I thank you all for honoring that request. And now, Madam Clerk, if you could please give us proof of publication.
I have a proof of publication of legal ad number A0009522027 entitled Notice of Intention to Consider Adoption of an Ordinance published in the Star Banner newspaper on May 1st, 2019.
Very good. Thank you. And as we get started, I'm going to ask our attorney, Mr. Mentor, to please go over the procedures of the day.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. We've got 5 items listed on the agenda for what we call consent items. Those are items on the agenda for which, at least as of the preparation of the agenda, we had not received any opposition to these items. In a moment, Mr. Marsoff, our Growth Services Director, will read off each one of those items individually. If you are here today, and even if you have not already filed any kind of objection or question about those items, but you have an objection, raise your hand and we'll pull that item off of the consent agenda, and it will be considered individually by the board like the other individual items. If we go through all of those 5 items and no one in the audience has any question or objection to any of those items, the Board of County Commissioners will pass all of those items with a single motion. If you're an applicant here for one of those consent agenda items and the board passes it with their motion for the consent agenda, then you're free to go because it's been approved. Then we have the items that are going to be considered individually, and those include special use permit items and rezoning requests. All of those items are what are considered by the courts to be quasi-judicial proceedings, and all that means is that the board acts on those applications as if they were a court. And so first we'll have the applicant come up and explain what the reason for their application is, maybe give some general background for it, what they're requesting. After they've done that, there'll be an opportunity for the members of the public to get up and either state that they're in favor of the item or they have some opposition to the item. Either way, when you stand up to speak, don't just say I like it or I don't like it. What the board needs to hear is factual evidence. If for some reason you're opposed to the item, they need to know that, what's the issue? Do you think it's going to generate too much traffic? Do you think that the use is going to generate a lot of excessive noise? Things like that are factual information rather than just your own personal opinion that I just don't like it, because that's really not a legal basis for the board to make a decision. Similar to that, every once in a while we'll have somebody speaking at the podium and they'll they'll turn around and say, anybody who is against this, raise your hand. Well, please don't do that, because first of all, the board doesn't decide these things based on majority vote. They decide them based on the evidence they hear, and they make the best decision they can. Secondly, when you're up here to speak, all of your comments should be addressed to the Board of County Commissioners and not to the audience. We're not trying to have a debate with each other in the audience. It's the board that you need to be concerned about. After all the people have spoken either in favor or against an item, then the applicant will have an opportunity to come back up to the podium and attempt to address and answer any questions or issues that have been presented by the members of the public. After that, the public hearing on that specific item will be closed. No further comments will be taken by the audience unless the board feels like they need to ask the applicant for some kind of clarification or a staff member. And then the board will make a decision. With that, I'll turn it back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mentor, and I'm sure if we get off base, you will help redirect us back where we should be.
All right.
Thank you. And now we'll turn to Mr. Martzoff, who will review the items that are on consent. And then if there is anyone here on any of the items that he calls out, we're going to ask you to notify us by raising your hand so that they can be pulled from the consent and considered as an individual item. Mr. Martzoff.
All right, for the record, Sam Martzoff, Marion County Growth Services Director. Earlier, there was a list of the 5 on the screen, and I'll see if we can get that back up, and I'll read them off. At the end, if anybody wants to have any of those pulled, please let us know. 14A1 is 190406 SU New Jerusalem Baptist Church of Ocala and the Austin Christian Vocational Academy. It's the special use permit in A1. 14A2 is 190501Z Rainbow Springs Investments LLC. It's a rezoning from B4 and B2 to RC1. 14A3 is 190503 SU Daniel Craig. It's a renewal of a special use permit in B4. 14A4 is 190505 SU Shirley Fullman. It's a renewal of a special use permit in R1. And finally, 14A5 is 190506 SU 16345 North US Highway 301 Trust. It's a special use permit in RC1. Anybody wish to have any of those pulled?
Commissioner Bryant?
I want to pull 14A2.
So we'll pull 14A2 for individual consideration at the request of Commissioner Bryant.
I'll move the balance.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Zalek with a second by Commissioner Moore to approve 14A1, 14A3, 14A4, and 14A5. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. If you were here for any of those 4 items, that has now been approved, and you're welcome to leave or you're welcome to stay with us this afternoon. The choice is yours. Thank you.
I think I got the answer to my question, so I'm ready to move that now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll move for approval of 14A2.
Second.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Gold for 14A2. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. If you are here for 14A2, that has now been approved, and you're welcome to stay or take your exit. All right, with that, Mr. Martzoff, take us further.
All right. 14B1 is 190409 SU. It's a bring back that you all heard last month of a 275-foot self-supporting communication tower for the Clay Electric Company in Fort McCoy. And if you'll recall, it was adjacent to an SBA tower, and we heard from their attorney. I understand from earlier today that they have worked out the details on that no competition agreement, and the applicant is here to tell you about it.
Okay, so if the applicant is here, if you'll please come forward. Good afternoon and welcome back.
Good afternoon. Glad to be back.
Name and address for the record, please.
Joe Johnson, 3371 Olympic Drive, Green Cove Springs, Florida, and as a representative for Clay Electric Cooperative.
Good afternoon, Mr. Johnson.
Good afternoon. So we have reached an agreement verbally. SBA has executed their side of the agreement. we have not yet, that we've just got the language on that. They brought that copy, so we plan to do that. We have a verbal agreement in the language of that non-compete agreement, which was a stipulation for moving forward. So we're happy with that agreement, and we're ready to move forward. I believe SBA is as well.
Sure. Yeah, go
Do
ahead.
you have a copy of the agreement we can review?
We do have a copy. They SBA has that copy
Okay.
that they brought.
I mean, I haven't seen the language on any of that, and so.
Okay.
Well, that's just their non-compete agreement.
This is between them two,
Yeah, it's
Why?
not ours.
not with
Okay.
us.
I understand.
So I do have someone in the audience here to speak on this particular item, Mr. Johnson, and it's Cammie Corbett. Ms. Corbett, would you care to take the mic for just a moment? And
Sure. Cammie Corbett, 100 North Tampa Street in Tampa, Florida, here representing SBA. And Clay Electric has accurately described the state of where we are. We're really very, very close. We had 2 attorneys traveling in Europe, which sort of complicated things, but Clay Electric's attorney wins the award for getting up and finding a secured connection and reviewing our changes while he was on vacation, and we really appreciate that. He has agreed to the language. The gentlemen that are here, unfortunately, aren't the signatories for Clay Electric, so as long as an agreement that is substantially similar to this and mutually agreeable to the parties is submitted with their building permit application, just to evidence the actual written agreement, we're happy to allow them to proceed.
very good. Do we have anyone else in the audience who would like to speak on this item? If so, I invite you to come forward. Once we close public comment, you'll not be able to speak again on this item. Mr. Mitchell?
So it looks fine to me. The paragraph 2 is basically says that the sole purpose of this particular use is for the benefit of Clay Electric, and so I think that was the concern that SBA had, that they didn't want to see any other users on that facility. So it appears to me that it's a pretty simple resolution to the situation.
Very good. I'll turn it to the board if there are any comments or questions from the board. I've got a motion by Commissioner Gold to approve with a second by Commissioner Moore. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously, and we appreciate the 2 parties working this out. Thank you.
All right, the next item is 190101 SU. It's a special use permit. It's a renewal of a special use permit that was done back in '07 for allowance of 2 horses. And then they additionally want 1 goat, and the original application for was 1 rooster as well. And I understand that rooster was removed. It was actually proffered to be removed during the Planning and Zoning Commission, and we've removed it from the conditions. So it would be the addition of one goat. Staff's recommending approval with conditions. This is in Lake Tropicana Estates, and the property that you see there, there is a zoning page on there that shows you all of the property that is south of the road that is abutting this property to the north is zoned R1 residential. The property to the north is agriculturally zoned. So there are those similar kind of animals across the street. There were a neighbor spoke in opposition to the south of this piece as to the animals being there. So we do have conditions that required the normal managing of the manure, limiting the number of existing hens there to 6, which are the allowable use in the R1 anyway, and the time frame was to extend to 2000. We changed that to 20. It was 3 years. Yeah, 2021 with a sunset date then.
Very good. Have these conditions been reviewed with the applicant?
Yes, according to Juan, it was a planner that worked this up. He had spoke to them, and they did want to remove the rooster.
Okay, very good. Do we have the applicant with us today? If so, we'll invite you to come forward. Yes, sir, that'd be just great. If you'll just give your name and address for the record, please.
How you doing? Hi.
Your name and address.
Yeah, my name is Gerard Ruiz. Our address is 19250 Southwest 57th Place, Danalo.
Thank you, Morales. We appreciate you being with us today. Do you have any comments to the?
Yes. Well, the last time when we were here, we were talking about all this. The neighbors about our animals. The only problem it was the rooster. We have 2 horses, 1 goat, and hens, and we had 1 rooster too. So we understood perfectly that the problem it was the rooster because he was noisy, you know. So that's normal. So what we have done is we don't have anymore the rooster around. Over 1 week ago, we could find someone to get the rooster. But the thing is, we have to keep with the rest of the animals because they don't do anything wrong. You know, they are not noisy. The horses didn't do anything the goat neither, and the hens neither. You know.
They're well taken care of also. I wish you guys show the picture so you can see how really nice we have the barn set up and the fenced area. It really is a really nice looking a farm animal area, and we have 2.5 acres of land that they have access to as well. So
we take care good the animals because we love animals, you know. So actually we were very sad. We had to give our rooster to someone, but we don't have problem with our neighbors, and we respect if they are not comfortable about that, you know.
Very good. And Ms. Ruiz, could you just give your full name and address also for the clerk?
Yes, absolutely. I'm sorry.
That's
I
okay.
forgot about that. My name is Lisette Ruiz Castelu, and my address is 19250 Southwest 57th Place in Dunellen.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And we did see some photos in our packet for just so that you know.
Okay.
And now I see that they've brought them up online to show that as well. Let me just turn it to the board if you have any comments or questions at the moment. If not, if you two would like to have a seat, I'm going to actually call some people who have signed up to come and speak on this. And after they've spoken, I will ask you to come back up and then share any comments to help address what their concerns may be. Okay?
Okay. We were just want to approach la oportunidad.
Take the chance to...
The chance to ask if it's possible, because actually we used to have it, but she died 2 or 3 years ago. We used to have 2 goats, male and female. We have just 1 now, you know.
The male is fixed, by the way. We're not trying to reproduce anymore, but...
Yeah, and you know, the animals needs to be with company too, you know. So we didn't do it because we were not sure if we could do it. So, but now in this opportunity, just we want to ask you because we have 2 horses, male and female too, you know.
Yeah, the male horse is a gelding. He's not able to reproduce either. Go ahead.
So is your request to have 2 goats?
Yeah. Basically to be able to adopt another goat, to keep this 1 goat company, especially because in winter time, you know how they cuddle up and it's easier for them to do that.
Está operado, dile.
But again, the goat, all our male animals at home, they're all fixed because we just, we love animals, and we adopt, every single one of them have been adopted. We try to get rescue animals, but we're not trying to reproduce more animals, you know.
Gotcha.
So I just want to let you know that.
Very good. So the request is actually, the special use is for 2 horses and 2 goats, along with you already have approval to keep the hens there.
Yeah, because by law we can,
We have 5 hens now, actually.
And you can have 6. Right.
We can have until 6, I think. Yeah.
You've already given away the rooster at this point.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's in consideration to the neighbor's request, basically.
Very good. If you'd like to have a seat, and then we're going to call some people forward that have already signed up to speak on this. And then again, after we hear from them, we'll ask you to address their concerns publicly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah, choke on something.
The first person that we have here is Barton Bonavec. And when you come forward, you can correct me in the pronunciation of your name, and if you'll give it again as well as your address.
Okay, my name is Barton Terry Bothwanek. Address is 19300 Southwest 57th Place, Dunellen.
Thank you. And you'd like to speak on behalf of this?
Yes, regarding, we moved here because it was residential and it's quiet. I really didn't think we were moving next to a farm, per se. Basically, it should be kept as residential. If they would like to have a farm, per se, with farm animals, then they should be living in an area that's agricultural, not where it's residential. 90% of the residents that are there that are residential, they have it residential. If they want to have farm animals, then they go someplace where it's agricultural, which is across the road, or other areas that are agricultural. I want to keep it as residential. I want it to kept quiet. If people want farm animals, that's fine. We love animals too. But animals need to be kept if it's going to be agricultural in an agricultural area. And as far as horses go, I've never seen them out grazing. I've never seen them being walked or ridden. And the horses do need to be ridden. If you look at their pictures, as you see where the shows the stables and all, it's all dirt. There is no grass for them to go and graze at. They say they take them out in the front of the property, but they don't. And we have been here a year and a half, and we have not once seen them out in the front. And as I state, it should be kept as residential. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. Next, we have John Pivanka.
My name is John Pavanka. I live at 19251 Southwest 60th Street, Dunellen, right directly behind the house in question to the south. I also, in 2007, signed a petition to allow Lizette Lumia, which was that there, to have her horses and whatever.
Y'all, excuse me.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
No talking from the audience. You'll
And
get to come back
we went
up.
ahead and all our neighbors signed that. And the only complaint that I really had about it was the rooster to begin with. But the truth of the matter is, as far as the horses, there's supposed to be an acre per horse. And they're supposed to be out on that property. Now, their whole property from their house to the front of the road, which is probably a little over an acre and a quarter, is completely open. They have a water feature in the center. They have flowers in their flower beds. There's no sign of cribbing whatsoever, you know, in that area whatsoever. So the grass is kept down within an inch. I know that those horses are not being walked out in the front of the property. And the way to take care of that is to set up a couple paddocks. You know, fence the other two rows in, put a couple gates in, and you've got it made that way. I mean, that's basically it. And I just want to end with this whole thought. You know, back in the day, they had a couple pigs. You know, they had them for a year. They did their, you know, whole thing. And after a year, they got rid of the pigs. I don't know how they did that, but that's fine. But it's still a little abuse of the SUP that was there. And that's the way we feel about it. And as far as the rooster, that was the problem as far as noise-wise. My house is 140 feet from the back of the fence. And that rooster didn't just cackle, you know, during the day. It cackled every hour all night long. So I just wanted to let you all know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pavanka. Next, we have Clara Toles. And after Ms. Toles, maybe I'm saying that, then we have Faith Stewart. And Ms. Stewart, if you'd like to come on down, you can also use the second podium here.
I live at 19300 Southwest 57th Place in Dunellen, and my complaints are the same as John's. The horses are kept in a pen no bigger than my house. I've been there, we bought this place in October of 17, and I have yet to see the horses outside that pen. I'm their next door neighbor. I would see the horses out of the pen if they ever got there. That's all. I just don't approve of horses being kept that close. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Faith Stewart. I live at 19300 Southwest 57th Place with my mom and dad and my brother. My first complaint was the rooster. I have to thank y'all for getting rid of the rooster. The family that did, I feel sorry for them because I know losing a pet is hard. Having said that, I didn't even know they had horses or goats until I heard here that they had horses and goats. I spend many hours, day and night, outside my fence, outside my, front yard. I've never seen horses, goats, pigs, heard the rooster, heard the chickens. They don't bother me. The rooster did. But as far as the animals having access to 2 acres, 2.5 acres of ground, no ma'am, they do not. No council, they do not. They have what appears to be a 40 by 40 fence. There's no grass. It does look clean if you can see off into the distance. It is kind of cleanish. But I do know that the wild cats, the stray cats that come in our yard are bringing rats from somewhere. So they could be coming from across the road. They could be coming from our next door neighbor. I don't have a clue, but I know I'm seeing rats and snakes and no horses and no goat. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak on this subject, this item? If so, I invite you to come down now. No one else? Sam, have we had any code enforcement issues here?
No, ma'am, not since the initial one that prompted this special use permit.
Okay. All right, and before we bring the applicant back up, what is the expectation for the area of a horse to be considered in a healthy environment?
Currently, it's 9,000 square foot for the first animal and 6,000 for each additional large animal. And the restriction on the overall acreage would be no more than 4 per acre. We're looking at bringing that more into line with what IFAS recommends, which is much closer to the 1 horse per acre.
The 1 per acre?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. Could we have the applicant return? Mr. Ruiz?
Yes.
Okay, so you've heard.
Yes, I just want to apologize to interrupt because we feel to force it to do it because it's the second time that Mr. Pavonka, he changed her last name. So it's obvious that he's doing it with bad intention because he knows perfectly that her last name is Ruiz, my last name since 10 years ago, but he insists to call her different, okay? So it's Ruiz, all right? Okay, the second thing is about the first neighbor. What he said is is wrong. That's not true. Number one, we have living there over 10 years. They moved just less than 2 years and they rent the house. We are owning the house. So, but they say that we had to move it if we want to live with animals. We say the same for them. Why they rent that house if he knows that all around you can hear cows, horses. So because we are in the limit. You know,
mind you, we only have to cross 20 feet from our house, and also they can cross 20 feet from the house, and all that is agricultural.
Okay.
And every morning and all day you can hear cows, donkeys, horses,
All
chicken.
the time,
So
you
it's
know.
not our animals only making noises.
Yeah.
For years and years before they moved in to rent this house, they've been making noises.
Yes, and also, it's not true about that we don't release our horses. We release our horses. The section of horses is not 40 by 40 like said the last lady. That's not true. 40 by 40 is a section for our chicken. It's not for the horses. The horses is
At least 1 acre,
is
right?
maybe half acre. Just the area that is enclosed, but they are not stay all the time there. Is in that area are the establos.
It's approximately, if I have to guess, it's
Déjame
approximately 3/4 acres that it's enclosed. He'll come back. It's approximately, sorry, he's got
He'll come back.
autism, you have to
That's
forgive
okay.
him.
It's okay,
Yeah,
we just
we're-
wanna
we're
make sure
fine.
he's safe, you're good.
Yeah.
It's approximately 3/4 acres, approximately that it's enclosed. That's their main area where they stay. And yes, sir, there's no grass in there because horses move around and there's no, but we always keep a roll of hay in there for them
And also,
all the time.
And also, we rotated the horses. Sometimes we release the horses in our backyard, but we cannot leave it all the time because they eat all the grass. You know, that is what the people normally in the big farms or biggest farms they do. You know, maybe they don't know because they don't have animals, just dogs. You know, it's completely different. But we rotated the horses in the backyard and in the front yard too. You know, especially in summer because there's more grass. So all what they are saying is not true. Other thing about the first neighbor. I don't know why he's about worried because when they use guns to shoot all the time or put fire, nobody has complaints. We had to call the police the last time because they were shooting. We had 3 children, we have animals, and they shoot. They paran disparando,
They
haciendo
have guns and
puntería.
they shoot outside the yard. And honestly, we haven't even found out what the code says about, because their land is like three times less our land. I don't know what the limits are for really shooting, but they're always constantly shooting guns back there. And
So
we are afraid
it's
for our
very
kids.
dangerous because can happen accidents, you know, and one bullet. We have 3 children, we have animals, you know, and also so. But they have complaints just because they don't like it live with animals around it. So
Okay, Mr.
I
Lewis,
think it's
I
more
think we
dangerous
understand.
live with people with guns. That is more dangerous than live with animals, you know.
So, if I could please, show me where the ag is on all of the surrounding properties.
Across the street.
But there's one big parcel that is to my left.
Everything across the street is A1?
Everything
Sam?
north is A1. It shows the aerial there.
All the yellow?
The yellow is R1.
R1.
R1, okay, okay.
For over
Is
10 years, I've seen horses up and down my road. And not always you have to ride horses, by the way, Mr. Pavonka, you're wrong. You don't have to ride them all the time.
Thank
That's
you,
not
Ms.
true.
Ruiz. I think we're good. I'm gonna bring it to the board. Do you have any, questions for the applicant?
No, Madam Chair, go ahead,
Hey,
Commissioner.
Commissioner.
I think the reason that we're here is because of the rooster.
And the
For
roo-
the majority of the neighbors that spoke today, I think that they have remedied that situation. They've had no violations with their special use permit, correct, Sam?
And they are requesting a second goat.
Yes. I'll move for approval.
So what, yeah, just,
Commissioner Zalet?
the original permit Sam had, if you'll just scoot over, just touch. Sam, the original permit had exactly what animals?
Just the 2 horses.
Just the 2 horses. So the goat's never been in
No, sir.
it was never supposed to be on the property.
The goat and the rooster were added here.
Okay. Yeah.
So the,
And you guys are letting those horses outside of the barn area, correct?
Yes, sir, we do.
All right, so just make sure.
Yes,
you know,
I don't
just make
understand
sure-
why they say that.
It's
Unless
okay.
they have a camera in their home and they're like,
No, I'm just saying,
But
just
we
make
do,
sure that
absolutely.
it's accessible because, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, this is the horse capital of the world, right? So we
Absolutely.
do the best we can to try to let people have their equine animals. You know, and this is, again, it was not a complaint really about the horses. I would suggest to you that you don't add animals outside of what's in the special use permit.
We promise you guys that if you.
Because your problems come by you adding things that are not inside the special use permit. We don't have
Right,
any
yeah,
problems with
it-
your 2 horses.
Yeah.
And so I would recommend that you don't add more animals to that. So
Yeah, that's why we promise you guys. Honestly, it seems, honestly, if you go there, you see all this farm animals
Louis.
everywhere. We
I
never really
understand.
thought of
That-
it,
no,
but.
Well,
we don't
here-
need any additional, we're good.
I'm gonna
the,
withdraw my
the
motion.
problem
Okay.
is
In a
that
second.
although there is agricultural across the street, you are technically not zoned. So
Right.
you don't have, so with all due respect, the people across the street have the right to farm animals.
Mm-hmm.
The people in R1 do not have the right to farm animals.
Right, that's
except-
why we need a special use permit, and
Except
that's what we're here,
without
sorry.
the special use permit.
Exactly.
And your neighbors have agreed and previously have supported you. You get in trouble because you know, you kind of think you're living on agricultural property and you start putting other things on there. Please, stay within the confines of your special use permit for your neighbors and for our community. And we want to be able to have horses in lots of places, and we have them all across our community.
Right.
And we have them in R1 because we are the horse capital of the world. And we want to continue to allow people to do that. But please, remember, you have a special use permit. You'll end up losing your horses because you didn't listen to the guidelines of the special use permit. And I don't want to see that happen to you. Madam Chair,
Okay,
that's all.
so, thank you, Commissioner Zalek. I think you, gave great advice. So, Board, we do not have a motion on the table. It has been withdrawn.
I'm good. I just,
There was no second. I withdrew the motion.
I
At
didn't get
that
I
point,
didn't get
because you
finished
were-
talking.
Yeah.
I'll second your motion.
There
I
is no
withdrew it. There is no
motion.
motion.
All right.
So you can make the motion.
I need a motion.
Clarification
And
from the
clar-
attorney.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yes, please,
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Gold.
so there's no violation if they're keeping them in a certain area. The issue here is if it's a complaint on the noise and that, not whether the horses aren't out roaming free and all
Yeah,
that.
our
Okay.
zoning code doesn't specify how much time the horses spend out in the field, so.
All right, okay, that was it.
They have to have enough property though under the land development code to qualify.
Right.
And they do.
And we do,
Yep.
absolutely.
So that's what I'm just saying, that's not the
Yeah.
issue there. It would be if it was noise or the other parts there that were causing harassment.
And we promise you, if you approve these
Ms.
horses and the
Ruiz,
goats.
Ms. Ruiz.
You're hurting.
I'm
Stop
sorry.
speaking, ma'am.
Please.
Trying to help you out.
Y'all can go sit down. Thank you. You can, we're not done, but you can go have a seat and we're gonna discuss this and get to
Don't
where
forget,
we
please,
need to
the
be.
second goat, we really.
Okay.
Okay, please, okay, thank you.
Commissioner,
Yes.
so they have a goat. That goat, did you add that to the request, Sam?
That is
Okay, so
on the
now,
request.
They have also requested a second goat. Do you want to approve the second goat?
I'm okay.
Okay, so I will move for approval and add the addition of the goat.
So I've got a motion by Commissioner Bryant to approve the special use with the 2 horses and an addition of 2 goats.
And that's it.
They're asking
Well,
for 2
total
goats.
2, right.
Right, okay. So, and I've got a second by Commissioner Gold. Any further discussion? Yes.
Sam, they do have hens, right?
But they
That's what I like,
qualify
right.
for those.
That's allowed by right in R1.
Yes.
They can have the hens no matter what.
They can have 6 total, they have 5 today. So I've got a motion and a second. 2 horses, 2 goats. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Have a lovely afternoon, all of those that were here for 14B2. Next, we'll go to 14B3.
All right, 14B3 is 2019-0502Z. It's a request for a rezoning from R1.
Excuse me just a second. If you need to have a conversation, I'm going to ask you to leave and leave very quietly as we continue to conduct our meeting. Thank you.
So it's an application by Mr. Keith Wyatt to change the zoning from R1 to R4 in Long Lake Heights Extension Unrecorded Subdivision. It consists of 11 R1 zone lots on Lake Owen. There is a myriad of R4 zone property in the interior of the subdivision. Most of the lots on the lakeside are R1 zone. For the board's benefit, in 2005, the Marion County Commissioners adopted a resolution and a code, an ordinance to restrict R1 zoning property to certain specifications for a site-built home. The minimum size was 1,000 square feet. The minimum roof pitch was 512. I think you'll remember recently, within the last couple of months, hearing from Mr. Savage, the building official, that they've since modified that to change the roof pitch to 412 and to do some modifications to the garage or carport that was required. The reason for that is we had the RDMHs prior to that, where the manufactured housing industry was bringing DCA manufactured homes into R1 subdivisions that look just like mobile homes. So in order to curb that, they came up with these standards. Since '05, we haven't had a variance to these standards or a waiver to these standards. So it's always been an issue when they've come up as to how folks might be able to do this. They're usually in the rural areas, so they're able to rezone to something rural that makes sense and more compatible with what's around. In this case, they're in an urban area that's medium density residential, so they were real limited as to what they could change to. So even though Mr. White had no intentions of putting a mobile home on there, his only option appeared at the time to be to go to R4, which does allow mobile homes, in order to build a smaller house. Subsequent to that, I've been working with Mr. Wyatt after P&Z and come up with our old friend, the PUD, and we were fortunate in being able to reduce the size of that some years ago so that size isn't an issue. This is 1.2 acres. If we let him go to PUD, we can use the same exact residential requirements as part of the PUD. In fact, I handed it out there. It's got a little yellow on it. So we'll have the exact same requirements and development standards as the adopted PUD, and it would allow him to build down to an 800 square foot house.
Okay, Mr. Martzoff, any questions for Mr. Martzoff?
No, I figured you were I figured you were getting there.
Yeah.
But it has to be site built, correct?
Have to be site built. So it's a condition that has to be built to those specifications.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Do we have the applicant with us today? If you'd like to come forward.
Good afternoon. Keith Wyatt, 5641 Northwest Gainesville Road, and he's correct. Never had intentions of putting a mobile home on it. It was always going to be site built, but it was in the aspect of building something small.
Okay.
A little weekend retreat to get away to. And as far as the zoning, everything on the other side of the lake is all R4. Everything behind me is R4. The only R1 is 7 or 8 lots right there. And everything else is R4, even straight across from me on the lake. But they had stated in the first meeting that I wanted to put a mobile home on there, which is not it at all. I do want to do a small site-built structure. I have been looking at different log cabin kits, but it is just for a weekend getaway, something small. And, you know, I was only looking to be in, let's say, 600 to 800 square foot home. Just because it's just me, a nice weekend getaway place, and if I ever get to retire, to be out there. But as far as degrading the property or making it look bad, no. If you ever drove out there and in order to get to my property, it's awful. I mean, it truly is. It's awful. It's a bunch of mobile homes ran down, a bunch of them that are not even lived in, and it's not a very good area at all. And in order to, you know, do what I need to do, the zoning was the only option that I could see at the time, was to go R4. You know, and like I said, if it take writing on or swearing or affidavit saying that I would not put a mobile home out there, well, I didn't have a problem doing that. It was always a plan to be site built.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wyatt. Let me see if there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this issue. And if so, then we'll ask you to come back up and address any concerns that they have. Do we have anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this issue? If so, I'm inviting you to come forward now. Doesn't look like there are any.
I'll move the PUD for approval.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Zalek to approve the PUD for approval, second by Commissioner Bryant. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. All right, enjoy your new home when you get it built, Mr. Wyatt.
And your retirement.
And your retirement, yeah. Very good. Okay, next up.
This might be the moment everybody's been waiting for.
It appears. 14B4, Logos Lodge.
Ken Wayrock of Growth Services. It's 190504 SU. It's the applicant is Logos Lodge and Gregory Cromiller. The request is for a residential rehabilitation and regeneration program with up to 10 residents. The original request was for 30. It's because they had to give us a number and they put 30 down. But since then they've dropped it down to 10. The location is on East Highway 316, just east of the intersection with 315. It's 5.7 acres and it's zoned R4, residential mixed use. In 2018, December, they came in with an application at His Compassion and were denied and given 6 months, and that 6 months runs out next month. So this shows their original location over here and the new location that they've asked for. They've been working diligently with staff, and we've come up with several locations that staff believes is appropriate, but this is the only one that was for sale and within their budget. It's medium density residential, and zoning, as I mentioned before, is R4 mixed use, residential mixed use. Here's their current concept plan. There's an existing church on the site. We can, this is the plat. So the existing church is right here, and with the plat, they could break it out to several different parcels and do boundary adjustments to make sure each parcel is developable. So every structure that they're proposing is allowed by zoning. And this is about what the property lines would look like with the proposed structures. And on the north piece, there's an existing old commercial building that they would like to retrofit into their staff housing. Currently on the property, they have 5 residents and 4 staff, so 9 people total at their current location. As mentioned before, they were denied back in December of 2018. And they're modeled after a Dunklin Memorial Camp down in Lake Okeechobee. And it's more of a family regeneration program, according to the applicant. The residents cannot have sexual or violent felons. They cannot be taking any kind of drugs or psych medications. And the program is structured to minimize any adverse impacts to the local community. We did submit the program structure to you all. Planning and Zoning Commission recommended denial 5-1, and staff is recommending approval with the conditions as you've seen. If you'd like me to read them off, I can, or.
I think we've seen the conditions unless there's anyone on the board who would like any specific clarity for any of them. I do have a question.
Okay.
The 3 RVs, are those still going to be part of the concept? Okay.
No, so originally when there was a code case and they got busted for those RVs, they removed them from the property and have not used them since.
Okay. So they will not be on the proposed location?
Correct.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner
When
Bryant?
did they change their request from 30 residents to 10? Was it after P&Z?
After the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay, so if you don't mind, for the benefit of everybody that's here with us today, can we have the latest conditions
Oh, sure,
Read.
absolutely.
So the conditions are as proposed, that it's operated consistent with the submitted concept plan. That runs with the owners of Logos Lodge. Facility is limited to 10 residents plus staff. And each residential structure that they put on their properties will be limited to 6 persons, which is the same that we have for residential group home in residential zonings. All structures must be built with the required permits under the zoning. And, you know, the residents would have to abide by the rules, but that's something that they would have to enforce there. And then they have to gain approval with the fire marshal as per the number of beds per bedroom, but they still would be stuck with 6 per structure, 6 residents. And then any expansion of the would require modification of the special use permit.
Okay.
Which would bring them back into this
And they'd have to
auditorium.
re-advertise.
Okay.
Okay, so I want to go back to the 10 maximum, but then we're talking about 3 residential structures with a maximum of 6 people. That math doesn't make sense.
It's just the code they're using.
That was just off of their original concept plan.
So it needs to be adjusted, though, to not allow more than 10 residents, and I think they had 9 staff.
Oh, they have,
So that would be 19 if you want to divide that by 3.
6 point something.
What, no, I mean, are these,
These are for just residents,
these are
right?
just residential structures. Are they keeping staff in there as well?
So staff would be in the proposed building out front. It'd be a staff dorm. That's the old, it's like a commercial building, a historic commercial building that's been abandoned, and they would retrofit it to turn it into staff dorms. I may have a picture of it. Yeah.
So with
It's
9
listed.
staff, though,
Well,
no
they're-
talking, from the audience.
Currently, they have 5 staff, or 4 staff and 5 residents.
Okay, so
Okay.
that language would need to be amended to say no more than 6 with a maximum of 10 total residents
Okay.
for all 3 structures, if this board were to approve that. That would have to be changed. Because that's conflicting language.
It's very conflicting, yeah. So a total of 10 residents, including, which would include their staff. Is that what I'm at? Okay. So it would be how many staff?
They don't keep staff in these dorms. That
But
number
is
was for
the issue do you have an issue with the number of people on that property?
I just have an issue with the conflicting language that is in our conditions. We're saying a maximum of 10 residents, but then we're saying 3 residential structures with a maximum of 6
Actually, it just,
so
so within the conditions, it says just each residential structure shall be limited to 6 people total, so they.
So that would give them a total of 18.
Well, if the maximum is 10, then they would only have 2 residential structures there.
Well,
Or-
not
or-
necessarily.
Or they could have 3 and.
All I'm saying is you just need to
Put 3
add.
people in each one.
You just need to add, up to 6 with a maximum of 10. Does that make sense?
The maximum
Is
10
it- is that?
Yes,
okay.
on the site.
Okay.
Yes.
With a
already in
maximum
there.
of 10. It's there already.
They could
then.
have 6 in one.
Yeah.
But you don't want to say 3 residential structures with a maximum of 6 people each without adding that last sentence,
with the
because then that your language is conflicting.
Okay.
Anyway.
It-
Does that make sense?
But if they
Madam
want to
Chair,
put
the reason why it's
3,
there is because in our code,
Yeah.
you guys are getting code mixed up with maximum occupancy. The code in the structures allow you to have up to 6 people. That's the maximum.
I understand.
Right.
And I agreed with that.
So,
That's
so
what
it
I
just
just said.
right. So it's just it's really a non-relevant point because the maximum number of people they can have on the site is 10.
So
We've
as
already-
long as we're clear that there are no more than 10
Residents.
residents,
That's all that matters.
that would need to be clarified in the language.
The reason why they have the structure at 6 is because that's what our code allows the maximum
Per s-
combined residency to be.
per structure.
So you don't need 3 of them. You can limit the number of them if you want to. But the reason why 6 is there is because that's what our code allows.
I understand, but I'm saying you need to have that sentence so that no one ever says this is conflicting language.
Number 3 says the facility shall be limited to 10 residents. Period.
Okay, we can argue this all day long.
Okay, so do you have any other comments, questions?
Right.
Okay, then at this point in time,
Here's my-
do we have the applicant with us today? I'll ask the applicant to come forward.
On here. Can you explain it to Mr. Commissioner Bryan a different way? Can you explain it to Commissioner Bryan a different way?
Welcome back.
Hello,
Hi.
my name is Greg Crommiller. I live at 9093 Southeast 108th Place in Bellevue, Florida.
I'm Josh Sanders, 231 Northeast 11th Street, Ocala, Florida.
Very good.
What this program is it's an 8 to 10 month long in-house Christ-centered drug and alcohol program for men. The guys that we take, as y'all see, y'all all should have gotten a piece of paper about our intake criteria. The guys that we take want to be there. We don't take no sexual predators. We don't take no real violent offenders. We every single one of them has to go through a phone interview process, and they have to go through a face-to-face interview. The program is it's family oriented. We have the families involved actually, so even if y'all did the 10 language for the 10 people, we have it to set up in the program where the families come out and actually stay with the husbands on the weekend. We have a part of the program that's called family development, like Dunklin Memorial Camp has, to where the wives and the husbands come out, because we don't just work with the husbands. If we just work with the husbands and send them back home, all that unforgiveness, all that hardshipness in their hearts towards the wives and the things that they have done. So we bring them all there and we work with them on Sunday mornings. We have a class for the wives and the children. They come out there and we do family development. So you're working with the men, we work with the families. As we're going through the program, they stay in-house, and it's a very structured program. You can see the guidelines there, everything they do, even when they're at church, wherever they're at, if they got to go to the bathroom, there's somebody that's got to go with them. They have to hold each other accountable, hold each other to a standard. It's what we teach them. We teach them about forgiveness. We teach them about ownership, all the things that they don't know how to do, how to become a servant. They go out and they mow during the day. They do tree work during the day. We got jobs that we paint on during the day. We've been out giving back in the hurricanes, helping people, doing things like that. That's the job side of it. We do a lot for the community, and we've done for Ocala since we've been here. There's also a food bank, which is his compassion, that we've been in contact with. Pastor Larry would be here today, but he was really sick. He just texted me. And I mean, we do a lot of things. We work with Freedom Clinic. We help them set up and tear down, and the program is definitely what changed my life. I had went through it myself 6.5 years ago. My wife had a restraining order against me, didn't want nothing to do with me. My son couldn't stand being around me. That's the God's honest truth. I went through this program down in Dunklin Memorial Camp. Today, thank God, I got my wife back. I got my son, and I don't just have my son. Now I have another beautiful baby boy and a beautiful daughter that I love very much and love spending time with. And through all that, the relationships that I've grown, you're going to hear some of them today that I tore apart. I demolished them, okay, just like any addict has. And today, God has brought grace back in my life, and they've all given me a chance, and I have ran with that, and I've done it, and I have pushed in, and I make my relationships with people today very important. And through this program, and through the men speaking into my life, and God being there for me to change my heart, all those things are possible for me today. And that's what we're trying to do with the men that come through our program. We're just trying to give the ones that want help. If you look at one of the criteria on there for them to get in here, they have to want it. If they don't want it, they don't make it through the interview process. they have to call us 3 days in a row. I mean, if you know an addict, to get their attention for 3 days in a row, it's pretty rough. They got to be at a bottom. And then they got to go through a face-to-face interview. Money. Since I've been here at Logos Lodge, the most a person's ever paid to get into this program was a $160 application fee. But more than 80% of them haven't paid a dime to get in there. That's what the job sites are for. They help produce the revenue. It's also donations, all that stuff is what helps produce for these men to have a second chance, because most of your secular programs are $20,000 to $30,000 a month, and people can't afford that. So this program is set up to help those that are less fortunate. That's all I got to say. I'm going to let the people say the rest today. If y'all have any other questions, you can ask me, but if we did have a third mobile home on the property, it would be so the wives can come out and stay with the families, and we could put 5 and 5 in the thing if we needed to. The wives would stay. At most, today, even if y'all accept it or deny it. If you deny it, we ask for an extension to find another place. That's what we ask you for, okay? Please.
So, Mr. Kohler, let me just ask you, how long do your tenants, your patients, what do you refer to them as? Residents.
Yes,
How
ma'am.
long do your residents stay?
The program is 8 to 10 months long, so that means the guys, from day one, they stay with us for 8 to 10 months. They do not leave. They can't go. The only way that they would leave is a funeral. Something tragic happens, and even then, when that happens, usually we have somebody go with them. We don't just send them out by themselves. We have somebody take them so that they can go be a part of that, whatever they need to be. But they are with us for 8 to 10 months.
And they have an accountability partner at all times?
Yeah, we have a big brother system. When they first get there, for the first 5 days, they actually can't leave the side of their big brother for the first 5 days when they get there. It's a big brother system, and they have a big brother. They actually sign all their homework to make sure that they're doing everything in the program. That's somebody that's been there longer. Usually, for them to get that kind of assignment, they got to be there for 3 to 4 months already. And be in the region part of the program. Region part of the program is when they get little brothers is what we call them. And they come in and they stay with them the first 5 days. But when we're at church, wherever we're out in the community, we're all together. So if they have to go to the restroom, they have to say, hey, come hold me accountable and let's go to the bathroom. They have to do those things. It's all part of it. I mean, if you read number 1 on the guidelines, it says you must have accountability in everything that you do. That pretty much sums it up. They got to have somebody there with them or ask for permission to do something in anything that they do.
Any questions or comments from the board at this moment? Yes, Commissioner Bryant.
I do have a couple of questions.
Yes.
So the residential structures that you're planning on putting in, you're planning on putting in mobile homes?
Yes, we would. That's what was we had talked about in planning and zoning. If we did it, would be mobile homes. I will tell you this, that unless we get donations and things like that, that's years down the road. We would have to put what we have right now established into that first building and fix it up and do what we had to do in that first building, okay? So the residents and the men would have to stay in that first building because financially, we are a ministry. We take men for free. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars it's going to cost to do that stuff is not just going to fall from the sky. So it would take time to get to that process. So what we would have to do is do it step by step.
And they have to detox somewhere other than your
Yes,
facility?
we send them to the centers. The Vines, they don't like to detox people for free, so we send them to the centers. The centers does it, and then there's also a place in Leesburg that we send them to. They detox there. And we actually pick them up from the detox facility, or if they have family that they have not demolished the relationships, they will pick them up and bring them to our facility, like the wives or whatever, and we have an interview with them directly from the detox. So they're medically cleared when they come to us. They're not coming to us dope sick, detoxing, shakes, all that stuff. They're not coming to us with that. There's also, after the program, after the 8 to 10 months long program, let me tell you all this too, there's stage 2 and then there's SLT. Stage 2 is where they stay on and we help them. Let's say they don't have family. Okay, we got a gentleman right now that's in the program. He's not here today to give his testimony, but we have helped him get his license. We've helped him get a car. He's been staying there. We gave him a vehicle until he saved up the money to actually pay for the car. and he works for Townley's out there. And he goes to work, comes home, still attends nightly classes, still stays accountable to everything that he has in the program, until he gets the money saved up to get into an apartment, so that he has something that he's not going back to the old thing that he had. Then there's a second part, which is SLT. Let's say they feel called to stay in the ministry, and that's where they come in and they live with us in there. They work for free for a year to help pay for, let's say they didn't have the money to pay for the program fee or anything like that. They work for a year for free. God's provided everything for them. They work in-house. The food's done for them. Work, everything that they need is there. So they work in-house, and they give back to the guys that are in there. They learn how to teach. We teach them how to run job sites. We teach them all the leadership qualities of the program, which is a year-long program. They do 5 blocks of 10 weeks, and they give back to the younger guys in the program. That's another option after they graduate. That's why we needed the staff housing for the other guys. It's for those 2 phases of the program, so that we don't just have to have those guys go out in the community and kick them back out to where they don't have nothing to go to. That's another reason why we wanted the extra staff housing.
Okay, so they have to call you for 3 days in a row,
Yes, ma'am.
and this is after they've gone through detox.
Well, after, during, the whole time. If they call me before, the first thing we do is send them to detox, and we have them call while they're in detox. They can use the phone in detox. They have to call us. And that's another thing. Our subjects, our residents do not get a phone. The way they communicate with their family is through letters. They don't even have a phone to use on camp. The staff have phones in case emergencies transpire or whatever, but they can't even use a phone. They have to write letters to family members, and that's how they communicate with their families, through letters. And their family only can come and see them on the weekend, so it can't be their best friend from high school to come and see them. It can't. They don't do that. It has to be a family member that comes and see a mom, dad, brother, sister, wife. No girlfriends. They can't have girlfriends in the program either. It's very strict on that. No girlfriends can come and see them. If they're not married, they're there to work on themselves. And a lot of times when you have girlfriends with addicts, half of them are using anyway, and they're not. It's not a good environment for them. So.
And I just have one last question. So depending on their drug of choice, if you have somebody that wants to come to your program and they need to have an alternative drug, like Suboxone or something like that.
We do not have Suboxone, but we do have a program that actually deals with that. It's called Jericho House, but it's in North Carolina.
They wouldn't come to your facility.
They wouldn't come to us. We would refer them to there. Listen, if you have to get off this medication, we don't have nurses on staff, so we can't do none of that. We don't do medication. The most medication we'll let them have is if they're diabetic or they have high blood pressure or something like that, okay? Something that is a necessity that they can't live without. But as far as any kind of narcotics, any kind of methadone, any kind of Suboxone, we do not allow those things. Seroquel, even for mental, we do not allow those. When we get those kind of people, we refer them to Jericho House too, because they have nurses on staff that can deal with those kind of people.
That's all I have for now.
Okay. Thank you. We're going to call forward a multitude of people that have signed up to speak on this particular item, and I'm going to start with Vanessa Thomas. Is Ms. Thomas here?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Vanessa Thomas, 11788 Northeast 142nd Place, Fort McCoy, Florida. I'm here in opposition to this special use permit. I feel and I think that you'll find that the applicant has failed to provide competent substantial evidence that the use is compatible with the surrounding area. All of the area around it is single-family residential. There are some at the crossroads of 315, 316. There is the business district, as we call it, and it consists of a hardware store, a pawn shop, liquor store, soon-to-be pharmacy. We have gas stations and grocery stores, and a Dollar General. So what you'll find when you look at the map is that everything else around this proposed use is single-family residential. You've got a horse farm behind it, but it's still single-family residential. The platted Forest Springs area is R4, but that's for the mobile homes, and obviously it allows 4 units per acre. But those are still contemplated and have always been contemplated to be single-family residences. For this particular use, we also feel that there is a lack of support services for the use. There are not the types of uses or services that you would find that these residents will probably need. They may need to report to probation. They may need to report to the Salvation Army. The other issue that we have is that addiction is a very powerful illness. Most addicts can be very manipulative. We're now hearing that they are going to be coming fresh detox. That's new. We didn't hear that before. This particular group has no track record. They are here trying to come to Fort McCoy because they've already got a code issue at their previous place. We did hear from them, although not today, in a meeting that they had in Fort McCoy, that they did contemplate having RVs for families, but today perhaps maybe they'll put them in the mobile homes. We feel it is adverse to the community's safety. It is a voluntary program. They can walk off.
I'm sorry, I'm not
It's
paying
not properly
attention.
staffed. Okay.
I'm sorry, Ms. Thomas, I have allowed you to go over your time because I was taking deep notes, but
All right,
thank you very much. Next, we have Robert Smith. I will be watching much closer this time, I'm sorry.
How are you? I live on 150th Court in Fort McCoy, Florida. I oppose it because there's too many young children. It's close to the school, and we actually shouldn't have anything like that there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. And Joseph Cook?
My name is Joseph Cook. I live at 11600 East County Highway 316. I live directly next door to the proposed site. I'm here to oppose this site. I'm here to oppose the permit to the Locust Lodge. If this thing is approved, it will decrease our property values, diminish our level of security, and drastically reduce our quality of living. I have a 9-year-old daughter, excuse me, that lives with me and my wife, and she swims in her pool. She plays in our yard safely at this point. I understand that everyone here is going to tell you that they can minimize this risk and the risk is minuscule. Well, the truth is any risk is too much risk for my family or yours. I'm super hyped about this, and I'm jacked. I'm sorry. Our EMS system cannot support this. Our sheriff's department, it would be a strain upon them. There's going to be a considerable amount of noise pollution introduced into our area because they want to build a maintenance shop to service all of their equipment, which includes, the skid steers and bobcats and their tree equipment and things of this nature. I'm 5th generation Fort McCoy. I live here because I love this town. I know most of the people here, and I love it, and this doesn't need to be here. I've been accused of being angry and hostile about this, and honestly, it is true, I have been, but that's because I'm fighting for my family. And Mr. Carl Miller says he doesn't want to put this facility in a place where it's not wanted or welcome. Listen, I'm all for anybody trying to better themselves, but there's a place for everything, and this is just not the place. I appreciate what they do, but they're just trying to do it in the wrong place. And beyond all that, my family's safety is the most important to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Clifton, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to make it out. Bowman. Mr. Bowman. Now I see it.
I'm Clifton Bowman. I live at 115-475, 148th Terrace. The problem they got is nobody can tell the future. You don't. If it was a perfect world, it would be a problem. But how can you endanger the kids down at the school? Even the people that work at the grocery stores. Once you're an addict, you're always an addict. I've got a daughter that way. and she'll always be that way. And she's been clean for 2 years, but once an addict is always an addict. You know, we don't see her. I just moved here a year and a half ago because I love this town. Don't make me hate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. Can you show us where Mr. Bowman's property is? You might need to. Are you on it there?
Yeah, it's
Way out.
not.
Okay, okay, that's fine. Okay, thank you. Jacob Smith?
Good afternoon. My name is Jacob Smith. I live at 12001 Northeast 135th Street. But I also, on the other side of Mr. Cook, is where I have a business there in Fort McCoy. It's a hardware store / pawn shop / gun shop, bait and tackle, lumber, a little bit of everything that the community needs. Where this is going to be located at, according to where my store is, I mean, we already have enough problems in Fort McCoy. We all try to pitch in. We all try to give back to the community. I have a long list of right when you go inside the front door, little business cards of all kind of different people in the community that's looking for work. That's looking to mow grass, tree work. People call the hardware store a lot, looking for different people in the area that's looking for work. So as far as work, we've got plenty of people in Fort McCoy to go around to pass out work in the community. So for these guys to come in and set up shop there, because at the end of the day, this is what they're setting up shop. If they're not violent criminals, if they're all going to be detoxed and in good shape when they get there, it's basically a bunch of grown men looking for a place to live and work. And that's totally okay with me. But go out there, buy you a mobile home, buy you a place, move into Fort McCoy, join the community, and then work with all of us. But to come in there and to get the special use and move in and then, put these mobile homes in there, it's just, to me, just seems like it's an easy avenue to move into the area and set up shop there to be able to do these things like the rest of us are trying to do every single day. But as far as the special use for where it's at and what we have in Fort McCoy and the limitations of what they'll be able to do in Fort McCoy, I just don't think it's a good idea to be that close to some of the items that I sell. And also, just in general, if they don't have any money, well, then how can they buy anything? So to be able to come into the community and go over to the local barber and get a haircut, they don't have any money. To go into the grocery store, they don't have any money. They don't have any money. They have no means of getting any money because this is all for free. So it just doesn't jive with me. I just don't see it all coming together. There's too many what ifs, the financials. Really, at the end of the day, it just seems like I've been in Fort McCoy now for 10 years at the hardware store. I bought it back in 2008. In my mind, Fort McCoy's made a lot of progress. We got a lot of good things going out there. They got the ball field coming back. I just don't think it fits in Fort McCoy.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Howard Miller. And behind Mr. Miller, we have Tina Wetstein. You can both come forward. We have two different podiums.
Howard Miller, 16473 Northeast 141st Avenue, Fort McCoy. Actually, I live in Eureka. I'm about 5 miles east of the location. A couple of things I have is this organization was incorporated in December of last year. January the 1st of this year was when it became effective. If all of their money is coming from donations, and they've only been in business since January, where is the hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy this property coming from? If it fails, will the people that are supplying the money take over the property? Will all the mobile homes that are zoned 4, 5, or 6 acres be allowed on there? Will there be individual wells for these mobile homes? Will there be individual septic services for these mobile homes? And if it does, our home values are gone, especially around the Fort McCoy area. You know, I don't see a way, being where we're located, for them to have access to where all their jobs are. It's my understanding that most of their stuff comes from Outreach Ministries, which is down off of around Living Waters Ministries. So that's a long way from Fort McCoy. That's 30 miles away. So why Fort McCoy? I'm sorry, we don't want it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. And Ms. Wetstein and Mr. Wetstein.
That's correct.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Tina Wetstein, 11749 Northeast 139th Place, Fort McCoy, Florida.
I'm Otto Wetstein, 11749 Northeast 139th Place, Fort McCoy, Florida. Okay. And we oppose this. We just, Fort McCoy's been a quiet town for a long time. And over the years, it's picked up with a lot of residents, and there's a lot of foot traffic around. There's a lot of children around, a lot of elderly people, and there is a lot of foot traffic around Fort McCoy as well as automobile traffic. In the event at this place that someone does not want to be there any longer, it would be not real hard to have access to somebody's automobile to take off and leave, or just, like I said, there's a lot of children around there, and it's just something we don't want there.
It's too close to the four corner. I mean,
it's just too close to everything.
And I think it needs to be out like in the woods or somewhere.
It needs to be somewhere other than right there.
I mean, we're in the country,
I mean,
but we
there's been a
ain't
church there
in the middle of nowhere.
Just one at a time.
It's been quiet, and we'd like it to remain that way.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Wetstein?
I just want to say that I oppose it. I don't understand how it's going to work with the money thing. Like they were saying, nobody's going to have any money. They're going to let them go work and do their tree service, which means all their equipment, I'm sure, is going to be sitting on that property and being worked on the property and all that kind of stuff. And it just sounds to me like he's just trying to get a bunch of guys that are just trying to get off dope and go help him do his tree work. That's what it sounds like to me. But anyway, we just oppose it. We'd rather not have it there. And we thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for coming forward. Gary Steele? Gary Steele? Jerry Steele. And Mary Rivera, if you'd like to come to the second podium. Mr. Steele?
Jerry Steele, 3140 Northeast 97th Street, Anthony, Florida. I'm Grandpa. I'm Greg's grandpa. A long time ago, I run Jerry's Pawn Shop for 52 years. And a long time ago, I got saved in 1973 from alcohol, cigarettes, cursing every breath I took, and except on the golf course. I had a few of those.
That took a little while longer to recover from, right?
Yeah. But anyway, Greg was really down with this dope business, and one day he come to my house, and we had a big argument. And I wanted to whoop him, and he finally told him, I said, "You leave my house and don't you ever come back." I said, "If you get in jail, don't you call me." Well, he got in jail, and I had to go back on my thing. I went down to see him. But anyway, Greg got straightened out, and he got into Dunklin, and he got his life straightened out. And he come back with a heart for these people. I also had another grandson. He got caught for the dope, and he went for 3 years in prison, and then he come back out. He went to Dunklin place in West Florida called The Farm, and he stayed there for a year, and he come back. He has a nice, good job. He got a family now, raising them and doing good. My daughter got in with the dope, and she was facing 65 years, but somehow she got out on probation. She kept her job. She kept on prohibition, she could go anywhere she wanted to. But anyway, she got with a lot of prayers, with a lot of visiting and praying with her at the jail, she got over this thing, and she's now a commercial real estate agent in Orlando, doing
Thank you.
great. And she's still got her job with the Nautilus company, exercise equipment.
Thank
What
you,
I'm
Mr.
trying to say about Greg is what he's doing is a great thing. I don't blame these people from Fort McCoy because they don't understand it. They haven't had 4 people, and 4 people in there. But I'm trying to say that Greg's doing a great job, and that this is a great program, and it's nothing. I don't think there's anything harmful about it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Steele. Ms. Riviera, and behind Ms. Riviera will be Cheryl Noel.
Good afternoon, and thank you for hearing us today. My name is Mary Rivera, 14715 Northeast 112th Court in Fort McCoy, approximately 7/10 of a mile from the proposed land. I'm speaking against the permit. I would like to congratulate Mr. Cron Miller on his sobriety. There's certainly something to be said as the daughter and ex-wife of recovering addicts for that process and for their achievement in maintaining that. However, I don't think that Fort McCoy is the appropriate place for this particular facility. I'm concerned as a citizen with 2 daughters at home that they don't have licensure to provide any type of mental or physical medical attention. I don't know that they have licensure for the work that they do to provide income for their facility. I know that if I need someone to do tree work, construction work, yard work, I can go to the hardware store, which is less than 3/10 of a mile from the proposed property, and find business cards with license numbers on them to give me qualified work to get those things done at my home. The school, of which I've been an employee for 27 years, in 3 days, whoop, whoop, is 1.8 miles from the proposed facility. The pawn shop, less than 3/10 of a mile. The liquor store directly next door. 3 additional places to buy liquor within 5/10 of a mile from the proposed facility. And the Cougar Park, in which my children and all of the local children play, exactly 1/2 of a mile from the proposed land use. Again, I would like to assume my opposition to this special permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Riviera. Behind Ms. Noel, we'll have Les Bowen.
Yes, my name is Cheryl Noel, and I also have a petition signed by several people that I'd like to put into record, please. I live at 16211 Northeast 137th Court, Fort McCoy, Florida, 32134. I have some questions for Logos Lodge. Will it be 10 residents plus staff? That means they could just label them staff and they could then live there. We were told that the families might also live with the staff members at a forum meeting that we had last week. The structure in front of the property used to be a house, not a commercial structure. It actually has a bathroom and bedrooms and so forth. So that's misinformation. It's not a commercial structure. We were also told at the forum that they had changed the number to 15, and now they're saying 10. So what can we believe? We keep getting conflicting stories from them. This is the first that we heard that they would be coming straight from a detox location. It seems like that would be the crucial point for an addict, and they'd be going to this non-structured place where they don't have security to keep them on the property. We were also told that at the forum, a specific gentleman asked if they would underbid the locals, and it seems as though they work on donation. So if I'm a person who has limited resources and I need a large tree cut down that the neighbor is going to charge me $1,000 for, but Logos Lodge will do it for donation, I'm going to choose the company that is going to be the less for me, because that's where I'm going to need to put my money for good use, which means that they would then underbid the locals, which would directly impact our economic people in our community. I am also a teacher at Fort McCoy School. I have been employed as a teacher for 2 years. I moved in 2002 from South Florida to get away from the crime and violence that was in South Florida and to raise my son so that he could go to Fort McCoy School. I've been an employee of Marion County Public Schools since 2003, but only a teacher for 2 years. I am directly opposed to this special use permit.
Thank you, Ms. Noel. Mr. Bowen?
My name is Les Bowen. I live at 8188 East Highway 316, Fort McCoy. I own my own home. I've lived there for 15 years. I also own the commercial property at the crossroads of 315 and 316, the main crossroads in Fort McCoy, which is really close to this property that you're considering today. I've been familiar with this program since its inception. I know the parties involved. I know the men that work there. They've all been to my home. They've worked on my property. I can only tell you that these are great people, that the selection process that Mr. Crommeller has adopted when he takes these people from the jail is without question impeccable. He makes sure that the people he gets are good Christian men who believe in the Lord, who do the right thing and want to make a better life for themselves. There is nothing wrong with this program. It's really unfortunate, and I understand, as Jerry Steele said, how the people in Fort McCoy feel because they're just not familiar with it. I am totally familiar with it. It's a good program. The building that they presently occupy, I am a half owner in that property, along with another businessman who's deceased from Ocala. Never had a problem, never had one problem, never missed a payment on the mortgage. And everything there has been good. The only complaint they got was because of some RVs in the parking lot. There's never been a charge or a complaint against the men. So I am totally in favor of it, and I hope that you would consider it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Next, we have Margaret Smith and Shanna Cook. Ms. Smith, would you like to start us?
Hi, my name is Margaret Smith. I live at 15594 Northeast 150th Court, Fort McCoy, Florida. And I'm a mother. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, and I'm a great-grandmother. These boys behind me and this young lady over here, I've known them since they've been real little. This little girl, I consider my granddaughter. And this is how Fort McCoy is. We don't need this out there. It's a family-organized town, and I mean, we love them. My daughter lives in Fort Lauderdale. They have one of these facilities down there. These people are not under control. They run the neighborhood down there. They break into places. They broke in my daughter's car. I have a great-grandson that lives in the house with my daughter. And what you're listening to is not what these facilities are about. And I mean, they go along for a while, and they're only under supervision. They have a net. They're not under it 24 hours a day. And you have to, I feel sorry for people that need help. And I'm for one, I was raised strict Catholic by my mother. But, your family comes first. And all these kids are my family. And you don't want these people. And I'll tell you another thing. I had my granddaughter staying with me. She was 12 last year. She'll be 13 this summer. And we were in bed one night, and my granddaughter was in the one bedroom because I take them for the summer, my grandchildren. And my two little dogs, one little dog woke me up. Somebody was trying to break in my bedroom window. My granddaughter was screaming to the top of her lungs. They were drug addicts trying to break in my house.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Smith.
If you want that kind of people living by you, you go ahead, but we don't.
Thank you. Ms. Cook?
Hi, my name is Shona Cook. My address is 11600 East Highway 316.
Our property is directly west of the named parcels. Our family's been 5th generation Fort McCoy. I do not believe that Locust Lodge has the greater good of Fort McCoy in mind. I would also like to point out that not everyone's speaking on behalf of Locust Lodge's actual residents of Fort McCoy and have no vested interest in our community. The Journal of Sustainable Real Estate has found that neighboring drug and alcohol treatment facilities decrease property values from 8 to 17%. That's going to be a huge impact on lands that are already undervalued, especially when they move in 3 to 5 mobile homes. This is not going to be beneficial to our community. Mr. Cronmiller keeps stating and trying to assure us that the men of Locust Lodge will follow the rules or they will be removed from the program. How do you enforce rules when you can't follow them yourselves? That's why we're here today, because they violated their special use permits. He's also stated that the program is purely volunteer-based, which means the residents can leave if they choose. Being volunteer-based, once the residents leave, the program is no longer responsible for them or their actions. When asked if the residents do leave, what's going to happen to them? They keep saying they will buy them a bus ticket to anywhere they want to go. Where are they going to go? Their families have given up on them. They have no one. That's why they're there. We're going to end up with a bunch of homeless drug addicts in our community. What positive is Locust Lodge going to bring to our community? They keep saying they're going to do lawn care, tree trimming, build wheelchair ramps, help the elderly. For the wheelchair ramps, are they pulling permits? Are they building them to code? If someone gets hurt, Mr. Cronmiller says the men have signed a waiver excusing Locust Lodge from financial responsibility if they get injured. The average cost of an emergency room visit is $1,400. Who's going to pay their hospital bill since the men working don't get paid or have health insurance? We as taxpayers, or the homeowner when the injured man decides to sue for his hospital bill. Everyone who is supporting Locust Lodge is supporting an ideal. We are fighting for the safety of our community. How comfortable would you be living next to an establishment with known drug and alcohol addictions? How comfortable would you be allowing your daughter to play outside or swim in her pool knowing that there's 9, 10, 15, 20 men living next door that could be watching her? Would you allow your daughter or granddaughter come to my house to play with her? Our family has lived in Fort
Ms.
McCoy for
Cook?
over 100 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ivana Tyndall and Lavon Tyndall. So we have Yvonne Tyndall and Lavon Tyndall.
My wife's not going to speak.
Okay. And Dave Walker. Mr. Walker, if you'd like to come forward to the next podium. Yes, sir.
My wife doesn't speak very much, but when she does speak, we all listen. My name is Lavon Tyndall. I live at 17893 Northeast 138th Avenue, Fort McCoy. We also own several other properties out there. We are in real estate, and our main living is buying and selling property. Currently, we probably own, I don't know exactly, 15 to 20 properties in Fort McCoy right this very minute. One of which is the old fire station just on 316, short distance from where this is going to be. You know, I've heard in the whole process of all this over the weeks and over the internet, I've seen a lot of anger. And I know anger is, it's like a wildfire, and it'll eventually burn out, but not without a lot of devastation. And I hate to see that because I believe that the anger is based on unfounded fear. I have to say this because we also are very involved in our church. I'm a deacon at the church, Mill Creek Baptist Church in Fort McCoy. I'm also a Bible teacher there. And I've also counseled a lot of people in the area because the area does have a lot of drug addiction, does have a lot of alcoholism. It's all over the place. And they have neighbors all around them that are already addicts. And I do too. And we all have them in our family, Jerry. You're not the only one. I can guarantee that everybody that spoke here today has been touched by alcoholism or drug addiction in some way. We also support a ministry on the other side of Marion County called Jesus Is Ministries. Some people may be familiar with that. It has a very good name. It's operated basically on the same principle that they are. They take no state, no any government donations whatsoever. And they do that for a purpose because they want to be able to have control in the state, not tell them what they have to do. It is a Jesus focused ministry. This is also. I've investigated this ministry quite a bit.
Mr. Tyndall.
I'm sorry, and I'm for it. I will just say that.
Thank you.
I think they're actually just doing what the place has already been for 60 years. It was a church.
Thank you.
Church is where you go to have broken lives are actually
Thank you.
brought to a holy God, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Tyndall. Mr. Walker, and behind Mr. Walker, we have J.J. Farrow.
Good afternoon. My name's David Walker. I live at 6150 Northwest 61st Street, Ocala. First of all, I want to say that I have no drug addiction. I have no alcoholism background. I'm an ex-police officer and Vietnam veteran. I was introduced to Locos Lodge because a friend of mine was teaching Bible study there on Wednesday nights. I was there for quite some time, listening to some of the testimonies and that, and I was like, okay, I had no idea what the program was about. I've been there for almost a year and a half now, every Wednesday, whenever there's a Bible study. I'm not here because of fear, rumors, or what I think might happen. I've experienced this group as a whole, and I just want to share a story. I was at church it was Ocala Church of God at the time, and there was about 5 years, and someone came up to the pastor and said, I want to give up alcohol and drugs. Pastor stood up and he said, I have somebody here who wants to give up alcohol and drugs, and I have absolutely no idea how to minister to this person. Anybody here who has had problems with drug or alcohol addiction, please stand up. Well, let me tell you, over a third of the church stood up, and I was floored when I saw who it was because I had been going to that church and I had no idea of their background. And they were there because here's a man who was there who wanted help, who was willing to sacrifice and change his life, and we were able to minister to him. And it's just unfortunate. Like I said, I have experienced it. I've been there. I've been to different activities and ceremonies. These are good people. And the men that are there genuinely want to change their lives. Thank you so much for hearing me.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Behind Mr. Farrow, we'll have Fred Cook, if you'd like to come forward. Mr. Walker, or Farrow, excuse me.
Good afternoon. My name is J.J. Farrow. I live at 12315 Northeast 135th Street, Fort McCoy. I moved here to Fort McCoy about 5 years ago, built a beautiful home. I left Jacksonville because what happened to Jacksonville is going to happen to Fort McCoy if you allow this to happen. I left Jacksonville because of the type of individuals that you're trying to put, or they are trying to put into our community. I'm retired, I've got 40 years in law enforcement. The type of individuals they're trying to put in here in Fort McCoy is not going to help the community. It's too close to the hardware store, the liquor store. I'm going to be concerned if this place comes to being that my wife won't be able to go volunteer at the library anymore, go to the grocery store, go to the hardware store by herself. It's just wrong. It's not safe for the community. And I can tell you from all my years in law enforcement, I could give you different studies with various types of results, but bottom line, these type of individuals, their failure rate is overwhelmingly failure. The ones that succeed are far and few between. Well, I have a question for the committee. During the zoning commission, they said that if they become a problem and they have violations, it'll take up to a year to get them out of there. Is that correct?
There is a process through the withdrawing the special use permit. I do not know the length of time.
The zoning commission said 1 year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
if they violate the special use permit, it would come back to Sam, the violation would come forward, and then they would be on the next board meeting.
That's right.
So
I think what he's talking about was,
a code enforcement violation would take over a year.
well, if you want to revoke it, and just like with Compost USA, if they get somebody to appeal it in court, it'll take more than a year. So
Okay.
that's the problem you have.
Thank you for that clarity, Mr. Mentor. And Mr. Zalek, or Commissioner Zalek. Behind Mr. Cook, we'll have Lindsay Feckler. Mr. Cook?
Hi, my name is Fred Cook. I live at 14860 Northeast 113th Avenue. I also am related to the guy that lives next door to where they're proposing it. My family has also been here since the late 1800s. We live here, as he said, because we like to be here. We like the area. We're not the people that are doing the drugs that they want to talk about and, oh, they're the drug addicts there. But we all also are all tax-paying citizens. We own our property. We're not renting. We own our properties. And it seems like to me that the reason this is trying to be pushed by the few people in our community is it's financially profitable for them. Ultimately, the ones that tend to lose tend to be against it from my view. I oppose it unequivocally, and I do not want it near my niece or my family's homestead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Behind Mr. Feckler, we'll have Tony Chesler.
My name is Lindsay Fackler. I live at 11575 East County Road 316 in beautiful downtown Fort McCoy. And I'd love to keep it that way. These people are talking. In the first meeting, they said these people would be in there for rehab and none of them would have a criminal record. Now they're saying they will come out of jail or wherever, and that a conflict with what they said the first time. Can't say much other what everybody else has said, other than the fact they asked for 10 people, and then the staff. Okay, now we're looking at how many wife and kids are going to be there and where they're going to stay. I live almost right across the street from it, and we don't want it in our neighborhoods.
Thank you, Mr. Feckler. Mr. Chester.
Yes, ma'am.
And behind Mr. Chester, we have Jason Noel.
Tony Chester, 14150 Northeast County Road 315, Fort McCoy, where I've resided off and on for 70 years. We own all the adjoining property, Qualified Investments Corporation, all the way around this said piece of property. We own the piece all the way down on the, it would be on the east side of the property. We own the property on the south side of the property. We own the property in front of the fire department, behind the fire department, and all the way around the lake. We have a couple of offers on property that's going to determine what y'all come up with tonight, but I don't doubt these people are doing good. I know them, but I'm not for putting it in Fort McCoy. It's, I think we're just too small for something like that. And I don't know why they couldn't stay at the one they're at right now and go from there, you know? Get it straightened out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chester. Mr. Noel?
I'm Jason Noel, live 137th Court in Fort McCoy. I've been there for 17 years. I just need some clarifications on some things that have been discussed over the last few meetings. So what would be the definition of staff? You know, that would be important to identify that, because you know, I was happy that they did reduce the number down to 10. Makes me feel a little more comfortable, but at the same time, I still would need we think we'd all need clarification on what would be the definition of a resident and definition of staff, and be able to identify that clearly. And one question I have is, the 10 residents would be under the permit rules, but then you have the 6 persons per structure being a, you know, zoning rule. So then what rule would supersede the other if there was a conflict, and how, you know, how would we enforce that accountability? I kind of would like to have the board maybe address that. And just for clarification, what is the cycle for the renewal on the permit? I've heard it was 2022, like 3 years, I guess. I just would need clarification on that, so we know what the cycle is for this to basically.
2022 is what it is.
Okay, so I just need clarification. Yeah, so so that's important also. So then we do have some avenues to take action if for some reason there were violations or whatever. Currently, they mentioned that they don't accept any state money, no county monies, and for the purpose of not being able, not being forced to have a court mandate an individual, into their program that they might not want to accept. That's really important. And then being a 501c non-for-profit currently. But biggest reservation for me is if the donors, dry up or the funding is not there because of their commitment to the program, commitment to their men. They might have to be forced to change their mind to accept money from the state, county. Then a judge could then appoint somebody there without really their, wanting them in that program, and that's kind of a big deal.
Thank you, Mr. Noel.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else in the audience who would like to speak on this? If so, I'll ask you to come forward. There's 2 podiums, and so we can take 2 coming forward, and we'll bounce back and forth. Whoever would like to start.
My name is Brian Rice. My address is 11580 Northeast Highway 315, Fort McCoy. I've lived there 30 years. I've grown a horse business on that property, and I've been very involved in trying to shape and push the community in positive directions. It's a small community. My concern with this facility is that I don't think it's a good fit within the framework of that community. And I'd like to point out, with a small community, those businesses right there on that intersection are quite fragile. If we negatively impact 1 or 2 of them, we may lose all of them. And I think that would be a real difficult picture to watch a community that is slowly growing in positive directions and is a very comfortable spot for people to raise kids and come and go from those different businesses, salons, hardware store, garage, restaurants. I think we need to continue to build in the right direction, and I'm concerned that this will not lead us in the right direction and may put those businesses in peril. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Yes,
My name is Jonathan Crom Miller. I live at 5220 Southeast 21st Ave, Ocala, Florida. Listen, this program changed my life, right? Pain pills took over, right? Ultimately, I went to prison for that. When I came home from that, I didn't want to live anymore, basically, you know what I'm saying? And found Jesus at a program just like this one in a small town, right? And it is amazing what goes on here. I learned to take ownership for my actions, right? And how to be a man. I now own my own business, and I am now paying my own taxes, live in my own home. Both of my children go to Fort McCoy. I used to live in Fort McCoy, right? You can't even go under the Eureka Bridge without people smoking pot or drinking. So, I mean, you're worried about drugs in the area. These guys are actually there trying to change their life. They're not there trying to get high. They're there and are held to a higher standard than most people live in America today. It is amazing. I don't know, if it doesn't pass today, my only hope and prayer is that you just give them some more time to find another place. Thank y'all for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Cromer. Hello.
Hello, my name is Bruce Chessman, AKA Homer. I'll be 80 on August the 26th. However, I've been the caretaker of the church and the property for nearly 10 years until the church closed down. I'm here to tell you right now, I promise I am not a civil engineer. I'm a retired electrical engineer, and I've been around a lot of construction. The property itself will not support additional septic tanks or well. I can't elaborate on that right now, but I will if it's necessary. Second problem is that my son and I are on total disability. I've got to be careful how I say this, but I have a lot of material there at the house that would be very tempting to some people, okay? I will be on it for life. And at any rate, I just don't want to take the chance of having some very powerful medication that would light up the city of Chicago. I don't mean to make fun of that, you understand what I'm saying. But at any rate, the property itself where they want to put those trailers will not perk. We have a big problem with the existing septic tank and the well. Someone from the service said that they have 2 wells out there in the woods. That is a false statement. There is 1 well out there, and it caved in. And there is 1 small well right now feeding 3 buildings, including my parsonage. And I'm getting perhaps 20 pounds of water pressure up there at my house in the parsonage. And we're going to have to drill another well for my house alone if something isn't done.
Thank
And
you,
I-
Mr. Chessman.
Yes, ma'am. I think
you.
that's basically it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Sharon Lewis. My family owns property at 15130 Northeast 150th Lane, Fort McCoy. It's been in my family's property's been in my family for over 50 years, still in my family. I've lived at that address for many years. I can't tell you the times that I've had allowed, because I used to work at the sheriff's office years ago, deputies to come hide on my property because there were drug houses with children in the neighborhood going up and down, and they would come and sit trying to catch them. The fact of it is, we have this everywhere in Marion County, and it's really, really bad in Fort McCoy. My thing is, Gregory is my son. I have never done drugs. I was raised very strict Christian home. My kids were raised. He got on prescription drugs that got out of hand. I have close friends that are my age that were in ministry that got on prescription drugs and it's destroyed their life, and one just died, finally. Everyone in America is a touch. Drug is a big cause of death today and suicide. So the thing of it is, I understand people not wanting to get in Fort McCoy. I lived in Fort McCoy for a long time. My grandkids go to Fort McCoy School. I retired Marion County Fire Rescue, and I am now a teacher. I see these kids in my classrooms. I'm a high school teacher. The things that these kids come and tell me that their parents do. We're worried about some guys trying to get their life together in a place that's near a bar or a place that sells a grocery store. That's everywhere. There are drugs everywhere. You would think they would see it as an opportunity for people to have to go to change their life. And they're worried about their families and people breaking in. They need to worry about the drug houses that are so bad in Fort McCoy and not about a little bitty, small little organization that's trying to change lives. Those guys are there because they want to be there. Their families are Christian families, and because they've hit bottom and they said, I need help. They're not there because they're ordered to be there.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis.
You're welcome. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, my name's Hoyalene Thomas. I live at 11780 Northeast 142nd Place in Fort McCoy. I also own several other properties in Fort McCoy. I've lived there my entire life, 74 years. I'm 5th generation living in Fort McCoy. And I have spent my whole life doing volunteer, trying to make this a good community to live in. Just like my ancestors did, and some of my friends. We've worked hard to have a good community, family-based community, and we don't need this. Yes, we have our own problems in the community. I think most families has been touched with alcoholism and drugs. and there's a good bit of it there, just like everywhere, like she said. But here's the thing. We try to deal and provide and take care of those and get help for those in our community. We don't send them out to someone else's community. That's the difference. And we really don't need this facility in our community. And I want to go on record as backing up everyone else that has spoke in opposition. Everything they have said, I agree with. And I thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
I
Thomas.
hope you make the right decision.
Thank you. I'm going to ask if you need to have a conversation in the audience, if you'll please take it outside. Your voices carry forward. Next.
Bobby Joe Party, 4514 Southeast 28th Street, Ocala, Florida, 34480. I do not live in Fort McCoy. However, I do live in Ocala. I am a professional. I've been a professional real estate agent in Ocala for over 6 years now. In my younger years, I was an addict. And thank God that there were people there for me, and God completely changed my life. But more than the program and more than where these guys are going to live, I want to talk about the integrity of the program and integrity of Greg, the guy who runs the program. Greg's integrity is beyond most. He is a man of great integrity. What he says is true. The program he is running is phenomenal. It is not just changing guys' lives. I have watched this. I knew Greg from a kid. We grew up together, went to school together. I knew him before drugs, and I've known him after drugs. And I've watched what his family's gone through, and I have watched the man that he has become. I've seen many guys graduate this program and go on to have very successful lives. Their wives have taken them back. I'm actually going to a wedding in December of a guy who is renewing his wedding vows to a woman who no longer wanted him, and they have 2 beautiful children. I have seen what this program does. I have allowed these men in my house. If I need work done, I call Greg. Greg, Logos Lodge comes. They've done all the work at my house for the past 5 years. All 3 of my houses I've lived in and owned for the past 5 years. They are the people who work on my homes. And I have 2 daughters and a son. And they are best friends with these men because I trust what he's doing and I trust the people that he brings to my house. Guys who get out of the program, I have followed them and kept in touch with them. This is a great thing that is going on. Whether it be in Fort McCoy, I would put it next door to my house. I let these men in my house. As far as work goes, they are not coming to Fort McCoy to steal work. They have plenty of work all over Ocala and anywhere else. Money, grocery, haircuts, hardwares, these guys are not going to these stores. There are people who buy these things and go into the community and get them, so they don't have to worry about these guys coming in and destroying their town because they won't be in the town infiltrating the town.
Thank you, Ms. Party.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tina Branford. I live at 10271 Northeast 211th Place in Fort McCoy. I've been there for 40 years. I am also a business owner in Fort McCoy. I can appreciate the fact that this man wants to help. Our area is not the place for help. I understand that they were turned down for a place in Ocala that has access to transportation, help, rehab. If you turn them down there, why in the world would you want to come to Fort McCoy? My God, we're 25 miles from town, okay? This puts a burden on our community. It puts a burden on our police force. I have a up-to-date chart from our local lieutenant for the month of April alone. Yes, we have problems. Everybody has problems. They made 58 arrests just in April alone. Drugs, grand theft, this is gonna cause such a burden on our police force. Number one, they have enough issues as it is. Secondly, when I went to start my business in Fort McCoy, you have no idea how many hoops I had to jump through to get water to wash people's hair with, let alone to move other mobile homes in there. I wash 10 heads a day on a really good day. Imagine how much water these people are gonna take. Secondly, how many mobile homes are we gonna allow them to have? 2, 3? Now are we talking that it's gonna become a mobile home park? That's not a rehab. I also found out from our forum that they don't do regular random drug tests. It's not required. My God, what rehab place is not going to check their residents, okay? I think the gentleman that's opening the place, I think it's a wonderful idea that he has. I'm not sure if he even has the qualifications or the certified personnel to even minister to these people. I believe in God. I think we all believe in God. But I just feel like this is just not a place for us. I have so much to say on here, but everybody has pretty much said everything that I have to say, and I don't want to see it in our community.
Thank you.
Oh, and if you need to see what their little...
We did get that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Christina Gizabal. I live at 3143 Northeast 95th Street in Anthony. I'd like to start out with saying both Gregory and Jonathan Cromiller are my brothers. This program has remotely changed my family's lives. If it wasn't for this program, I wouldn't even have my brothers here today. I have personally shared holidays and my home with most of these men, almost all of the men in the program. I personally allow them to be around my children because I trust my brother wholeheartedly to make sure that there would never be anything like this put anybody in danger. And I understand the fears that these people have, but they have to understand that these are people who are broken and who need help. And if we don't help them, who will? And if we don't give them a chance, who will? And as far as the equipment right now is stored in the property behind my home, and I heard a lot of noise, like complaints about noise. They're constantly back there getting their equipment, and the only reason why I know this is because I see them out my window, not because they're making noise. I also would like to say that they personally take care of my yard, and they personally cut their hair, so they will never have to worry about them coming and taking water or getting business out there. I just want to say that I'm for this program, and I believe in it wholeheartedly.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hello. I'm Sandra Andrews. I live at 13311 Northeast 228th Lane Road in Orange Springs, Florida. I just wanted to say that we're north of Fort McCoy. It's not only affected the surrounding areas of Fort McCoy, but it has affected us north of Fort McCoy. There's drugs around us as well. There's drugs in Fort McCoy. And I think it's great that they have found a program that has worked for them. But my children play in the park. My children talk to other children at the school, and they are scared. They want to help. I'm a Sunday school teacher. I teach my children how to accept. I teach them how to help others and to talk to others and allow others to come talk to them if they have issues and problems that they need to talk about. But they're still scared because there's been so many things that have changed throughout the time that we've learned about this program. Too many things have changed from the beginning when we heard that they were the zoning committee meeting to now. There's just always something changing. There's never the same thing being said. With that, it makes us wonder what else is going to be changed as the time goes on. Are we going to know of the changes in our neighborhoods? Are we going to know if people come in and out? It's just not a situation that I want my children to go down to the park and not know the people who they need to actually look for just in case they are in the park with them. My kids know who they need to watch out for. They know certain people are associated with, unfortunately, drugs, and I hate that they have to know that, but they do. But if there's people coming in and out of this program, how am I going to keep track of who they need to know? If they're 6 months, 8 months, 10 months in, how are we gonna know who those people are if they're constantly coming in and out? It's just not a situation that I want my children to be a part of, and I don't think other parents should have to worry when their kids go to the park to play. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Andrews.
My name is Peter Damaris. I live at 2000 Northeast 78th Street, Ocala, Florida. I'm currently the senior resident at Logos Lodge and the terrifying criminal that would be moving to Fort McCoy. I am college educated. I have no criminal history, and I'm an ex-drug addict. Gregory Cromiller saved my life, and I think I'd make a pretty good neighbor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Damaris. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Joanne Houghton. I live at 711 Northeast 45th Street in Ocala, Florida. I know I do not live in Fort McCoy, so you're probably thinking, why am I up here speaking today? I have been a teacher at Fort McCoy School for the past 5 years, and to be completely honest, I spend more time at my school than I do at my own home a majority of days. But from listening to everything that has been brought before you all, one thing that I have kind of constantly kept coming to my mind is the fact of things are constantly changing with this particular group. So if things are constantly changing now, what's going to be changing 6 months from now, a year from now, with what they're saying? If they're currently already having one special use permit, having to relocate from that, what's not going to cause this also to have to be relocated? I would also like to remind you what was said by the zoning board in last month's meeting. In the minutes, it says that the Zoning and Planning Commission recommendation motion was made by Greg Lord, seconded by Jerry, and I'm going to incorrectly pronounce this, LaRucco, to agree with staff's findings and recommendation and recommend denial of the requested special use permit based on the following finding of fact. 1, will adversely affect the public interest. 2, is not consistent with the Marion County Comprehensive Plan. And 3, is not compatible with the surrounding land issues. And it had a vote of 5-1. So I would like for you all to stay in contract with the zoning board. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Halston.
My name is Jeff May, and I live at 15511 Northeast 150th Terrace, Fort McCoy, Florida. I'm also pastor at First Baptist Church in Fort McCoy, Florida, and I'm here speaking on my own. My constituents, my group, may or may not agree with me, but I wanted to just say that and point out that I know this has been a hot button issue in our area. We've had more hits on our Facebook page over this issue than any other thing that we have posted, but the issue of having a rehab center in a residential area, I know of an area, I have family that live on the street in Orlando, and in this cul-de-sac, there is a rehabilitation center that owns 7 homes in this cul-de-sac. They've had no problems with the men and the women that live in these areas, and property values, when I look to the property values, have actually increased over the last 3 years. In this area. Now, I know it's Orange County, this is Marion County, so it may be different, but, and so those two things, I don't know if it would have an impact or not. For us, for me as a church, not having a place in the area, if you approve the program, then I'll have a place to refer people that come to me with help and need help and assistance. Currently, I don't have any place that I can really refer people to. If you choose not to, I still have met some wonderful people and have some wonderful programs, and there's still places that I can refer people to that I didn't know from before. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Richard Passante, and I live on 114th Avenue in Handy Hill Annex. My question is, what's their success rate? How many people did not make it through their things, and when they come out of there not cured, what are they going to do, and where are they going to go? Are they going to come to your house, or are they going to come to my house? Or do you understand where they come from when they're high and they want to be high? If they're not going to be cured, what's their success rate? That's my point. I'm sorry. I don't want to be the fall guy for them not making it. I'd like to see them make it, but what if they don't?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Lacey Manning. I'm a resident here in Marion County. My address is 3640 Northeast 17th Avenue. I have been in personal connection with Logos Lodge. They have been doing my lawn care for the last 3 years. I am a single mom. I have 3 kids at home, and I feel confident in hiring them to do my lawn care service. They do a very good job, and I completely understand the fear that this small community has. But I have the opportunity to hire any lawn care service or any tree service that I choose to. But I choose to support this program because I believe in what they do. And I believe that Marion County needs a program like this for people, a Christian-based program. Where that fits in Marion County, I do not know. But I do know that our police force and law enforcement are using Narcan on a daily basis. Our EMS system is very strained at this point. We hear about it on the news every day. I have 3 teenagers. I have a daughter and 2 sons. And my worst fear is that I am going to need a program like this one day for my children. I choose to support this program. I have seen what these men, I've invited them into my home, and I do believe in what they're doing. Again, I completely agree with the residents of Fort McCoy, but I live 2 miles from their current location. When I realized that their current location was housing these men, I never knew it. From the outside, you can't perceive that there are a rehabilitation center going on inside of that old church. So I think that, based off of the facts that we're seeing here, there hasn't been an issue. Yes, there were RVs parked on the property, but there hasn't been an actual issue with the residents living in that place.
Thank you, Ms. Manning.
James Allers, 11040 Northeast 145th Lane. I oppose it. It's a great idea for a lot of people. There's 100 different commercial buildings in Ocala that would be more suitable for these people, and I just would rather not have it in my community. So, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else in the audience to speak?
Sure do.
Come on up, Mr. Koontz.
Madam Chairman, I can't stand up.
Okay, just 1 second. Yes, we will get you a mic.
If people can hear what I say.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Ken.
I've had all. Is it on?
Yes, sir, it's on.
I've had all kind of health problems. I've checked out of one hospital. I'm trying to get in Mayo, and my doctor is out of the country in India somewhere. And you got to have a referral from your heart doctor to be.
Mr. Koontz, I'm going to ask you to watch these lights up here.
Okay, I'm going to talk about this thing that I heard,
okay? And we're going to need your address.
No more. All right, I'm Al Koontz, 10850. I was born and raised in Fort McCoy. My family helped build that church up there. I was on that church roofs when I was a teenager. And a lot of people don't know it, but in this county, not the Baptists, they own their churches. The Methodists, they own the church. If you don't pay your dues to the conference, or if you get in financial difficulties, they take your church. They can lock the keys of your church. If you don't believe me, you call the conference. Many people that go to a Methodist church think that they are in a church. I was married, Joyce and I was married in a church.
Mr. Koontz, I'm going to ask you to get
Okay.
on.
Okay,
'cause
I'm going
that
to
green
talk
light's
about the
gonna
program.
turn yellow shortly.
Ma'am? Okay. I went to a meeting at the rec room in the Fort McCoy Church, Baptist Church. I'm sitting there. Now, I lost a son that died from alcohol, and he died from something else. And this is way back in 2001. Joyce and I lost a son. Jerry's pawn shop, Drew is his son or his grandson. He loves his son. His son is with him. My son is gone. There are people in this room, almost every family is touched by drugs, touched by alcohol. We've lost family members. I didn't lose a brother, but I know families. It's hardly any family in this county that's not known by drugs and alcohol.
Mr. Koontz, your time is expired.
Okay, please let me talk for
I'm
5
going to
minutes.
ask you for 15 seconds to wrap it up.
Okay, I went to a church meeting and I hear a man of God tell a completely different story up here than he's telling you. And he told us things you need to investigate further, because once they get their foot in the door, you'll never get them out.
Okay.
Please do that for Fort McCoy and for the citizens. These people live 6 miles away that are against it. They don't ask them if they want that church down there. They don't even live in Fort McCoy.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Koontz. I hope your health gets better. Do we have anyone else in the audience to speak? Yes, sir.
I'm Ronald Huffstetler. I live at 2360 Northeast 18th Avenue here in Ocala. I am not a resident of Fort McCoy. I am a semi-retired ordained bishop with the Church of God. I presently serve as the pastoral care pastor at Living Waters Worship Center. This program that these guys are doing started on our facility about 4 years ago. This is not a program that started 1 year ago. I know all of these guys, not only the people that are involved in doing the program. Our church is very actively involved, both physically, financially, in supporting the program. Not only are we involved with the men that are doing this program, but we are highly involved with the young men that are in this program. I personally am involved with all of these guys. I've heard a lot of things today. I can't get into everything that I've heard here today, but I can tell you this. I keep hearing about the Success program. I can tell you this program has been successful. The young men that I have dealt with come into this program without hope. I have watched young men. There are some sitting here today that are not related to Greg Carmiller that have gone through this program. I've seen their life change. I've seen them where they have now in business or they have jobs and they are being productive. They are not going to this area to be a business. What their purpose is to change the lives of young men that come into this program, men with no hope. They're trying to give them hope. They're not wanting to do a business. That's not their purpose.
Thank you, Mr. Hofstetler.
And I thank you. Just please support these guys.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to come forward and speak? I'm going to close public comment if there's no one else, and I'm going to invite the applicant to come back.
Could I make one comment?
I'm sorry, Mr. Koontz. You only get one conversation.
I appreciate it.
Thank
Love
you.
all.
And you also.
My wife says I've got the mind of a 14-year-old. I don't agree with it.
We're going to ask her to come and get you. Mr. Koontz, okay, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said anything. Okay, thank you. Mr. Crumler, thank you. You have been hearing for the past hour plus 37 comments, some for, some against, but we've got a lot of issues to address here. Have you been keeping track and you want to start them, or you want me to start asking? First, too close to the school.
Yes, ma'am, that school is 1.8 miles away, and that's a direct line. You do have to go to a stop sign and take a right and go farther into Fort McCoy, which is 2 miles down, or a mile, whatever it is, down that road on 316 from 315. The thing with the school, you're gonna have school bus stops, you're gonna have schools everywhere you go, okay? Here's the thing, I'm gonna be honest with every single person in this room. It takes a village to raise a child. It does, okay? And if the community can't come behind this thing and they can't do what's gonna be happening, you know what those guys are gonna feel like every time they walk in or walk by anybody in this county or in that town? It's not gonna be good for them. My heart is broken right now. That the anger, the fear, all the things that are going on is broken, okay? I have sat here and I have listened to people degrade men when I know how they are. I know their character because I deal with them every day.
Well, talk about your track record and for success.
For success, any program in the state of Florida, their success ratio is 10%. That's any drug and alcohol program. That's a success ratio you have. For Dunklin Memorial Camp, every 2 months they graduate 12 to 13 men out of their program, every 2 months. Our program hasn't been around that long, you know what I mean? And we've been around for 4 years, getting established, doing the things that we had to do. As far as the success ratio, I can give you the numbers. Numbers are, if they graduate the program, it's 10%, just like anybody else, okay? But out of that 10%, if they stay on for SLT, that number drastically changes to 85%. 85% of the people that graduate SLT stay on for 2 years at Dunklin. 85% of them end up living sober-free lives.
You keep using the acronym SLT.
Yes, servant leadership training. That's the second phase of the program that I was telling you about. Once they graduate and they stay on for that extra year, if you walk 10 miles in the woods, you got to walk 10 miles back out. And these addicts, most of them have been addicted to drugs and alcohol 14, 15 years. A 30-day program, 60-day program, you know, all these things. We're an 8 to 10 month long program. And we are a program that believes that some people need more time. Some people need more loving, and that's why those extra phases to the program are there. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I can tell you that all I can tell you is that the one thing that I tell everybody is every single man that comes to my program, no matter what, they're introduced into a relationship with Jesus Christ. That is one of the main things that they do every single morning that is mandatory for 30 minutes a day there. With that being said, God is going to deal with them. God's going to take care of them. We're going to put them in God's hands, and they're going to have to work, right? That's what I'm here to do. God called me to do this, but I want to do it, and I want to set my guys up for success. But if we're going to have people that live directly next door that'll be hostile every time a guy comes out, or a guy they're out there mowing the yard, he's standing out in his front yard with a pistol he says he has, or whatever it is, I don't want that. I really don't. I'm here to tell you that. And that was brought up at the last meeting. And that's why I did say, if it's going to be that kind of environment, I don't want my men there.
Well, do you want me to continue down this, or do you want to reconsider your request?
I want it right now. What I want y'all to do is give us an extension.
Madam Chair, let me make the.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Zalek.
Again, this is my district. I totally understand. I understand where you're at. I think any man that has the opportunity to be transformed by Christ, we're all still a work in progress,
yes.
Right? But there are two things that we see in our community that are needed for a place of rehabilitation for success. And it is, you are absolutely right. You have to have community buy-in and a community behind your process, right? Same thing, just off Magnolia with men, the wearing gloves process, right? Where they help to rehabilitate men that have been homeless, some addiction, and women, and then give them a place to learn how to serve again, how to roast some coffee, how to, build some furniture and all those kind of things. And it's been a great success because when people work and they learn how to work again and come back in to you know, if you will, society, along with the help of the spiritual part of it, right? You can't just heal somebody's outside and expect them from their own willpower to go ahead and have victory in their life. You have to have something supernatural, and that comes with the love of the Lord. But you're right, this is not going to be the right fit. I mean, the community has said it's not going to be the right fit. And you have to have both those things to really work together. And there are some legitimate claims about where the place is and all that kind of stuff. And so I'll definitely be willing to give you some more time, because the reality is that just like, you know, nobody in their backyard wants a landfill, but we all produce trash and it's got to go somewhere.
Yes.
Right? And people get hurt in life because of circumstances, and there's got to be a place for healing and a community around that to support that healing.
Yes, sir.
And so we're going to give you the time, I believe. Right. We're going to give you the time to find that right spot so that the men of our community can find healing and find it through that appropriate area. And so I believe that's the right thing to do. So, Madam Chair, I'll move for an extension of 4 months.
I'll second that.
6 months?
6 months.
6
Okay.
months.
I'll move for an extension of 6 months for your program.
I think we got quite a few people who want to make a few comments.
That's fine, but I'll at least get the motion on the floor.
Right.
We can always have
I'll
more
second it.
comments.
We got a motion to extend where they currently
To
are.
deny the special use and extend your
Current one, 6 months.
another 6 months.
Matt,
Okay, that's a motion by Commissioner Zalek, second by Commissioner Moore.
before we take the vote.
Yeah, we're not going
We're
to
not
take
taking the
vote. We
vote. We
got
need
a
to
lot more
discuss.
comment.
Right.
Yeah.
But I would like to see if you would amend that through the end of the year. Just make it easy through the end of this year.
So that's
Yeah, 'cause
basically going to be another
otherwise
8
you're
months.
ending in
months is
November.
that?
Yeah,
That's-
through December 31st. Okay.
So that's fine. I mean, I know, listen, at the end of the day, I know you guys are proactively searching for the right community fit, right? And so as long as you guys will promise me that you'll do that, then I'll be more than willing to amend my motion to the end of the year.
Okay. That's a motion,
Yeah. I'm
7
the
months, yeah.
yeah.
7 months.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Zalek with second by Commissioner Moore. All right, so do I?
Discussion.
Can I go down the list here? Moore had asked, and then got
Yes, sir.
Bryant, and then Gold. Yes, sir.
I just want to say, you know, because you're right, with addictions, anything, people are enslaved to sin, as you and I both know. And the only one that can take the spiritually dead and make them alive is Jesus Christ. And it's with the Holy Spirit that he can change lives. We can't change people's hearts. We cannot change people's lives. Only the Holy Spirit of God can change somebody's life. So exactly what you're doing is a phenomenal thing, because you are rescuing people. You're literally taking, when somebody comes to know the Lord, they're going from dead to life. You're taking them from the enslavement of, you know, that addiction and helping them be set free by the power of Jesus Christ. So I commend you for what you're doing. It's phenomenal. And I just am glad that, you know, I've got a brother in Christ here on the board who already said extend, because, you know, what you're doing is great, but, you know, I appreciate that you realize that this was not a good fit. So, you know, but our staff hopefully will work with you and try and find something that is good fit. When somebody mentioned woods, we got plenty of woods here. If there's something there, or I don't know, but if there's an area that's good, because, you know, or the other, find something where it's already zoned for it, which is what Saving Mercy did. Saving Mercy, I don't know if you remember, they were going to do a phenomenal thing for the community. They just had a wrong location at first. They changed the location to something that's already zoned for it, and they're going out there and positively impacting people's lives. So I would just say continue working with staff, but thank you for all you're doing for the community, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Moore.
Okay. Let Commissioner Gold go.
Commissioner Gold.
I commend you for bringing that up, because that's the first time I've ever heard anybody do that.
Right.
But to err on caution, I'm just going to check with the county attorney on this, because the current residents for the current, special use permit don't have an opportunity to comment on this. Where are we with that? I don't want it to come back to bite us.
That's a legitimate point. I think you have two issues here. You got the pending application for a special use permit in Fort McCoy, which is what's on the agenda.
And then we've reopened the other one.
Yeah, I think it would be safer to notice your proposed action to extend that for a subsequent board meeting. That would be my recommendation to the board. So that the people that are there, I mean, the people that were there before, they've already been heard on that issue. I think you should give them an opportunity to be heard again. What's the explanation?
Is Sam here? I mean, have we ever extended a special have we ever done this before?
Yeah, we can re-advertise it. I'm afraid it's June 18th, though. That's a pretty crowded meeting already. But we'll,
Was the question,
The
have we
question
done
is,
what we
do
were
we-
doing today? Have we ever
Before.
done that before?
yes,
Without holding another public hearing?
Yes,
I believe you have.
we have.
Thought we
Yes.
had.
we have.
Yeah.
Something, that doesn't mean it's exactly the most appropriate legal way to do it.
Right. Well, we need to make
Well,
sure.
I mean, at
that-
the end of the day, if you don't get sued on it, I mean, you know.
Madam Chair, and I apologize for
I
bringing
think
it
it's a
up, and like I
great-
said, man, I want to err on the part of caution with this one, just because of the action that we're going to take, and they hadn't spoken.
Well, I think we should just send notice to those folks that say that the board has taken action to extend it, and, you know,
Through
they'll
the
come
end
to
of-
our next board meeting if it's a real issue.
Are you good with that, Mr. Mentor? If we notice those from our last public hearing on this
Send a
issue
letter and
where
tell
they
them what we
currently
did.
are, that we have extended the special use permit where they currently are till December 31st.
I mean, these guys have made a good faith effort to go
Yeah,
about finding a
Yeah,
location.
there's no argument about that.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, you told them at the last public hearing, you directed us to work with them to find another location. They've done that diligently, so we'll send a letter to the
I
same
think we just send a letter,
notification.
tell them that, you know, and then if they need to comment on it, they can come to our next board meeting.
I'm sure we're gonna vote that in here shortly. Do you have any additional comments?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you.
Commissioner Bryant? Did you have anything else?
No, I just, I know this has been hard for everybody here. I know that we have two opposing views, but I commend you on making the decision that if the community's not behind you, that's not the right fit. I think that they'll hopefully see your good faith effort in what you just did, and maybe some of these folks out here would be willing to, if there's an opportunity for them to come alongside and help your ministry, maybe they would do that. We talked about it at the last meeting. It's a real tough one for me.
Yes, ma'am.
Very, very tough one for me. I lost a brother to a heroin overdose 2.5 years ago, so I could have only dreamed that he could have gone to a program like this. Unfortunately, that wasn't an option. And for those of you that don't know, what they are doing is really a great thing, because if you don't have a lot of money or great insurance, there are not a lot of options for you. So I really commend you on what you're doing, and if I can help you in any way in helping to find a property for you to work out of, I'd love to do it.
Thank you, Kathy.
And I'm gonna share as well, Mr. Crumler, I mean, I have family members who have attended and had to go through twice, personal family members. So I am gonna speak on behalf of those who have fought the fight and they continue to struggle with that, but they are excellent citizens in today's environment. You're right, an addict, always an addict. However, that does not mean an outcast. So please hug your guys tonight and thank them for making good choices today to improve their future. And with that, I'm going to call the vote to extend the current special use permit where they are and deny this current special use request. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously.
Move the ordinance.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Bryant to move the ordinance.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Moore. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.